happening. You had some Browns that were taking pot shots and, kind of a back and forth. And then when Reese Fountain got injured, it was all incredibly dialed down. But we'll get on both fronts. TJ Carey, the purpose he will serve as a great deal of depth in that defensive backfield, and the state of the Browns in the AFC North coming up with Jake Trotter of ESPN.com. Bottom of the hour. You know what's interesting today? I was doing a JMV, check that. I'm sorry, not a JMV takeover. I was doing a Driveway Sports. I had to rename it because we're no longer doing a drop-off line with my daughter because there is no drop-off line right now. So we're doing a Driveway Sports. Once I get everybody together and I for a minute, get everybody in my house ungrounded because this kind of comes with it. As I mentioned on Driveway Sports this morning, during a pandemic, during isolation, during a in-home shelter for a long period of time, try your damnedest not to punish your kids in grounding fashion because it just makes it worse. I mean, it really does make it worse. So that's kind of a daily thing. But during Driveway Sports this morning, somebody had actually asked me a question regarding the Colts about that secondary. And, somebody we're going to talk to coming up at the top of the hour, one of the new faces on this team is Xavier Rhodes. Xavier Rhodes is going to join us at 4. But it was asked of me, so what do you think the secondary is going to look like with these new guys? Will it be better than last year? And I can tell you this. To me, I think it's going to be better. Certainly, there are some young guys that you're going to see. We'll see how, guys like Xavier Rhodes, again, whom we'll talk to coming up at the top of the 4 o'clock hour, just what he has left. We talk about all the time. Sheldon Day brought this up, the chip on the shoulder. People believing that you're done. People no longer believing in your skill set. These guys carry tremendous egos. And it comes with the territory. I mean, you have to. You have to have that to just basically accept the challenge of playing at the highest level in which they do. And Xavier Rhodes, while in Minnesota, was an immediate hit. Teams were looking the other side of the field away from him in his initial seasons in that secondary. Then he got dinged up 2 years ago. And as of last year, he just simply was not the same, to the point where his head coach, Mike Zimmer, called him out during the season. And then ultimately, the Vikings found him expendable, and the Colts picked him up. And it's kind of going twofold here. The Vikings did cut him loose. But I can't wait to ask him about the Colts being a significant fit. Why is this such a good fit? And we'll ask him about that motivation. He mentioned, even though the Vikings cut him loose, he mentioned that he needed a new setting. He needed a new place. But when he's asking me about that secondary, I will say this. I think most secondaries, unless we're talking about the elite of the elite level of cornerback talent or of safety talent, it is all predicated by what takes place up front. It is a old school football cliche that I'm sure drives everybody nuts. And there's a fraction of folks around here that I'm sure are probably sick and tired of talking about both sides of the line or up front or in the trenches being so important, because clearly it's so damn important to Chris Ballard. And we've talked about how they've rebuilt. We've talked about where they've really focused in on putting a lot of their money, a lot of their time and effort, because it's sure as hell not at the wide receiver position, which I've talked about. Even though they would say, well, we're still spending money there. You're stupid. What the hell are you talking about? But I think everybody catches my drift about that. They want to start up front. And to me, how good your secondary is going to be if you don't have the elite of the elite. If you don't have a Stephon Gilmore back there, for example. Or in the day, if you don't have a Darrelle Revis back there, it is all predicated on the type of pressure you get up front and how the guys are playing up front. So I think by virtue of bringing in DeForest Buckner, of making that defensive front more potent, more capable of getting after the quarterback, a healthy Toure, hopefully still finding lightning in the bottle with Justin Houston, hopefully. that will make the secondary a hell of a lot better because they have solidified, at least in their eyes, in their mind right now, solidified up front. And in normal circumstances, that makes everybody in the back end of this much better because you have an interesting mixture going on here. I mean, you got a guy that's been there and done that, had the highs and the lows, and a lot of people think may be at the end right now that's trying to reclaim what was once a fantastic start to a career. And then you also got a lot of young dudes still back there. You got Rock Yassin back there who did not have a good rookie season, got knocked around a great deal. And a lot counting on him in his second year. You got a lot of youth back there, and then you got guys that are trying to, well, in this case, with Rhodes, trying to reclaim something. Now, with Carey, it's a little bit different. I mean, he's a guy that has that durability, as Matt Taylor came on the show yesterday and talked about. They have brought in guys that have shown a great deal of durability, that have been there on call when it's necessary. But when asked about this morning, that was my first thought. I mean, I think you are essentially helping out the secondary by virtue of the work that you're trying to do up front defensively. We'll talk to Xavier Rhodes about that coming up in the 4 o'clock hour when he is going to join us, and I can't wait. More on the Colts, more on free agency, and we're going to go ahead and span the gap in this case between free agency and the draft, and we shall talk about the draft and more with Kevin Bowen coming up here in the 5 o'clock hour, something I cannot wait for. I think Matt Miller had a mock out there that had the Colts selecting. Again, not that it means nothing, but it's more magnified now because there's just not anything else going on, no live action sports happening. So you get mock drafts and power rankings and all that stuff that is more magnified just by virtue of nothing else going on, and that's obviously what we're bringing up. But Matt Miller of Bleacher Report had the Colts going with Jalen Hurts in that first pick, number 34 in the second round, and I think 44 in the second round is that second round selection, has them with somebody that many of you have talked up, especially Notre Dame fans around here. Had a speedy 40 time in the combine, and a lot of people have turned us all on to Chase Claypool. You know, while I sit here and talk about, T. Higgins or Jalen Reagor or, any other of these wide receivers that may or may not be available once the Colts come around and select at number 34, you guys have been all about Chase Claypool. And that's who Matt Miller has them selecting. Again, a long way away, but mock drafts will take center stage, just like power rankings will, because you don't have the live action. And listen, it's all necessary. You want to know why? Because I think we all need to debate what is actually going to go on or about to go on, as opposed to debating stuff that happened 35 years ago or longer. So I'm open for that. I mean, one of these days, maybe we'll drop into the category of, here's what happened 35 years ago and compare it to this and blah. One of these days, maybe. But trying to bridge the gap with actually stuff that is going on right now is a challenge, but a challenge that we're ready for in a conversation that I'm all good with. And hopefully you are too at 239-1070. Email address is JMV at 1070thefan.com. Clayton Anderson is going to join us. Clayton Anderson is going to have a social media show coming up that will benefit restaurants and bars and grills that are closed right now or just business-wise aren't anywhere near where they normally are. And you got to keep in mind, as I told you back when we were at the Slippery Noodle, and we had Cappy on as a Slippery Noodle. I mean, everybody downtown was expecting the Big Ten tournament, was expecting, as of last weekend, it to happen. The regional semifinals. Hell, Supercross, and none of it happened. And this has been a long time. And we have businesses that are trying to sustain, and that's why we're trying to help them out with the local business shout-outs. But Clayton's trying to help them out directly, putting on a show via social media. And we're going to talk to our good country friend from Lawrence County here at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour about that. 4:30 for Clayton Anderson. If you missed any of yesterday, it was great to have Jake Query back on the show. He was awesome. A good 5 o'clock hour conversation about things that are going on, things we're all putting up with right now, things we're trying to endure, that and more from Jake Query. And we will do that again because, listen, we have a lot of other things left over. I mean, we could go, like the personal stuff that we have, we could go back and forth forever. Now, without a lot of people, which would be funny, but we could go on forever with that. But Jake was really good. Jake, of course, of the IMS Radio Network as well. And at some point, I'd talk to Derek. We're going to get Derek on here. Derek Schultz, his former partner over at the other station, and give him a little conversation time as well. I thought we were going to get him yesterday, and it turned out to be a faux or a fake Derek Schultz as I played the Hanson Mbop intro and got the fake one. But we'll do that with the real one, hopefully coming up before the end of this week. Now, earlier this week, Tom Watson, legendary golfer, Golf Hall of Famer, 8-time Majors champion, 2-time Masters champion, was on the show, and that was awesome. Sheldon Day of the Colts also on the show, going all the way back to last week, if you want to check it out via podcast, and our conversation, which was lengthy. And I made, personality-wise, the comparison between Phillip Rivers and Peyton Manning, if for nothing else, because between those two quarterbacks, you've been putting up with guys that, A, don't really want to talk to us, Jacoby Brissett, or B, when they did talk to me, like Andrew Luck, the last thing he wanted to do was talk about football. Maybe it was vacuuming, maybe it was music, maybe it was architecture, but it sure as hell wasn't football. So Phillip Rivers was different. Phillip Rivers, 38 years old. I want to talk about football. I want to talk about how I fit. I want to talk about '08. Why I got into folks. Hey, call Hagan back there. He just hung up. I'm going to get to him in a second. I get to get past some of the things. I'm setting the stage here, Hagan. Yeah, go ahead and call him back. Do you have his number over there? I just saw him. I'll give you a little insight to radio here, and you guys can't see this on YouTube, and I've been neglecting YouTube.com, and that's my apologies. If you guys are at home and you want to jump on there and watch, you certainly can. I'll give you the finger as well, maybe pick my nose a couple of different times, and you can do the same thing to me. But I'm going to start utilizing that a little bit more because I've completely neglected it. That's youtube.com, the 107.5 The Fan channel. But you're not privy to it out there, but Chris Hagan called in. Unbeknownst to me, and I saw him, and I just wanted to get through kind of setting things up, not just for myself, but for you regarding the rest of the show. And I know why he's calling. He calling because tonight was supposed to be Michael Bublé, and we were all going to see Michael Bublé. And he's not answering that. That is so typical, man. There's no greater stealth movement out. That's so Hagan. It's like, have you ever been around Chris Hagan in a crowd? He'll be there, he'll be talking, we'll be having a beer, and I swear to you, you turn away for a second, and if my man wants to bail, he is out of there. He has the best exit strategy, the best stealth move ever. Every single time. You go, hey, wait a minute, what happened? And I mean, it can happen in a damn heartbeat. It's like something out of Star Trek. Weird. But Hagan was on hold waiting, and apparently he was tired of waiting, and he decided to go ahead and hang up. So we'll try to get him back coming up here in just a little bit, which is pretty damn funny. You know, we were talking about this a little bit yesterday. The Chinese Basketball Association, or the National Basketball Association that's in China, decided to go ahead and push back the restart in this case of their season, and they've been basically shut down since the end of January, and felt they were going to get started. They have yet to get started, and people are kind of putting bits and pieces together about how this is going to affect, or how this may look compared to what it's going to look like for us at some point. And we'll see how it works. If you remember last week, Jay Michael was on the show, and we were kind of, throwing out, and granted, things look bleak, and you have to sit back and you wonder right now where we are presently, how in the world anything is going to begin to restart. But face it, we don't know. And part of not knowing is, for me, not to build up false hope, But for me to continue to have some sort of hope, that's been my chosen path. I think Scott Van Pelt has kind of been the same way. You know, and unlike what they did with Wimbledon, just, you know what, we're never going to get this in, so the hell with it, we got to cancel it right now. And I'm sure that their meeting sounded much different than that. But to me, I like it, especially when you get different dates that are, at least as of right now, hard and fast, are set in stone, even though we know the likelihood of things changing are pretty damn high. I tend to want to deal with hope. And, hey, there's a date, and this is when this is going to return. The interesting aspect, and we brought this up yesterday, regarding how you view China and yet to come back and when they may end up restarting and how that connection happens here. The one thing that you have to go on in the Eastern Conference, the second best team is the Toronto Raptors. And as we talked about yesterday, Toronto, they're not going to let any crowds gather until June the 30th. And when we were talking to Jay Michael last week, one of the options that he feels and others have talked about that might be on the table for Adam Silver and the NBA folks would be having some sort of playoff, just starting the playoffs whenever we're allowed to restart with a level of crowd. When we get clearance for a certain level of crowd, is to have it in one place with no fans and only absolute essential folks to that NBA team and having a postseason. I think he mentioned Las Vegas for that too, because they have the facilities to support something like that. That may end up being, if we're lucky in this case, that may end up being what we're looking at. But we'll see. But again, I like the fact that you kind of look down the road and, you just don't completely end it, even though all we hear is basically negative, and it doesn't look like it's going to take place anytime soon. And we're not suggesting that. But that was one of the options that seems now if we're going to see it at some point, maybe more logical than others, considering that, you're going to have other cities, and it's not going to be a Canadian situation. You're going to have other cities that are going to do the same thing. We don't know. It's an hour-by-hour, day-by-day situation, to say the least. But certainly trying to continue with a little hope for you. A lot of knowledge, a lot of information, and a lot of fun at 239-1070. Email address is JMV at 1070thefan.com. We are on Twitter at JMV1070. A lot of reaction yesterday from the words of Frank Reich and the 5-7 plays for Jacoby Brissett. Like, I've had a couple of people try to justify it. Well, this is where it would make sense because Rivers struggled in the red zone. Brissett was good in the red zone. Maybe that's it. It still doesn't make any sense to me. And here's why. It doesn't make any sense to me because it just kind of sounds like Frank being pro-player Frank and not wanting to hurt any feelings. Face it. Right now, you are with $25 million, and 1 year you were all in on Phillip Rivers being your guy. So talking about how, trying to keep everybody happy when it comes to words you're saying in the media, that is going to be tough because you made the decision. If you're Jacoby Brissett and you hear that and you probably go, man, wait, are you going to try to patronize me a little bit? What? I was your starter last year. I was a top 20 guy last year, and now you're going to bring in some guy that's 38, and you're going to bring him in for $25 million, and I'm going to set the bench, but I'm good enough to play 5 to 7 plays. I think even if you're Jacoby Brissett, you'd have to go, man, what the hell does that mean? It's not like he's a change of pace guy at all. He's not going to get out there and run the option for you. He's not going to be out. It's just weird. It's weird sounding. But I think, to me, what it is, it's just Frank trying to be the pro-player coach that sometimes you want to sound hardcore, but if you're going to have the hardcore, you're going to leave that to Chris. And you're going to say, well, everything's okay, and I love this guy, and everybody loves him, and everything's okay. He was mad, but Well, hell yeah, he was mad. He was pissed. He just got his starting job ripped away. And hell, maybe he was injured. Got his starting job ripped away. And you can see the reason why in the second half, but you could also blame the Hall of Fame, the greatest of all time kicker, for helping him in that situation. A lot of injuries, a lot of wide receiver injuries, a lot of non-playmakers. Now, it's tough. It was tough in that second half watching him because you had to be about 7'5" with a 58-inch vertical to catch some of those thrown over the head. But it doesn't sound right. Anybody else agree with me on that? It just doesn't sound right. It sounds kind of ridiculous. Now, we may be proven wrong. I mean, maybe they throw him out there in red zone situations. Really? Anybody buying that at all? We'll bring that up to Kevin Bowen coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. 239-1070. Email address, jmv@1070thefan.com. The show is on YouTube if you want to check it out. The YouTube channel is 1075 on YouTube. I'm actually going to fire it up here and see if I can read what you're saying. I've neglected, I've not paid attention. That's my apologies. It's kind of how I'm wired, I guess. At JMV 1070, we're on Twitter. Kevin Bowen at 5. Clayton Anderson coming up at 4:30. Jake Trotter is going to join us at the bottom of the hour from ESPN.com. And one of the new Colts via free agency is going to be manning the secondary. Xavier Rhodes will join us coming up here at 4 o'clock. Your calls, your emails, your tweets. We got, obviously, local business shout-outs, and Kyle and I have been working on a fun JMV takeover down the hall coming up on Saturday, which is going to be outstanding, outrageous, incredible, and you're going to love it. I promise you that. Well, JMV takeover. From 6, I'm going to go 6 until question mark and see when they want me to get out of there. I'll go as long as you want me to. I will. Little in-house, all-request, all 80s, live in studio, living, breathing dude, taking your request and playing songs like it used to be. Nothing voice track, nothing fake, nothing computerized, no just fake satellite signal pumped in, by God. Living and breathing knucklehead dude playing your favorites by request on Saturday. That's a JMV takeover for you. A little bit about that coming up, too. All right, 239-1070. Your number if you're on hold, Jake Trotter, ESPN.com, and more with you. Other side next.
It's the Fan Morning Show with Jeff and Big Joe.
The future of the Olympics a little bit cloudy. Tom Shad, USA Today.
In terms of cost to Japan, they're just in a really tough spot. The original budget was something like $6 billion. What they've actually spent is something like $12 billion, and the ancillary costs will put it up to like $28 billion. So you're talking about billions more with this postponement.
The Fan Morning Show with Jeff and Big Joe. Weekday mornings 7 till 10. Only on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
We Grow Hair Indy has helped thousands of men and women grow their hair back. Hey, it's JMV, and I'm one of those clients, and amazed with my results. And this year, give yourself or someone you care about the gift of hair and call my friends at We Grow Hair Indy, 888-724-5129. I had the multi-unit hair grafting. It's PAI's trademark procedure. So did my friend Rick DeMulling, former professional football player. PAI is only one of 2 clinics in the entire United States to offer this and the Artist Robotic FUE. Listen to what the artist did for Nick Angeloff.
I am a young single guy, so having a full hairline does play a great part in going out and presenting myself well.
Check out my results, WeGrowHairIndy.com. What are you waiting for? Find out why you're losing your hair and which procedure will restore your hair. Call for a free evaluation, 888-724-5129. That's 888-724-5129. This year, grow your hair back.
The Fan is taking care of local restaurants with Take Care Takeout Indy. We'll highlight Central Indiana eateries offering takeout and their specials and offers. If you'd like your restaurant to be featured, go to 1075thefan.com and click on the Take Care Takeout Indy link and we'll showcase your restaurant on our website. We'll even be talking about the great places listed. Take care of our families, neighbors, friends, and our local entrepreneurs by joining Take Care Takeout Indy. Made possible by MS Communications.
Indianapolis Indians pitcher Cody Ponce.
You're teaching for Indiana, though. Are you having to do the video classes?
These kids enjoy people who do this job that they hope to have one day. hence the reason why I have not asked your big behind to be a guest speaker, Joe. They think you and I are entertainers, and they realize I'm the funny one of the two of us.
If you're talking about it,
I got no freaking interest in the push-up challenge.
we're talking about it.
As we have seen, things can easily change.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. The Ride with JMV.
Nachos, lemon heads, my dad's both. You won't go down cause my
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Oh, you guys are awesome. I may play this on Saturday. You ever heard this song before I ever played it here? Cool Mo D, Kyle, right here. I go to work like a doctor. Oh, God, I may have to play that coming up on Saturday if we're not careful. That's pretty awesome right there. JMV at 1070thefan.com if you want to go there. At JMV 1070 on Twitter. JMV, if the Colts really want to play Jacoby a little bit each game, they should just let him play the first quarter and then let Rivers finish the game. We all know that this never works out, right? Never, ever, ever works out. I'm going to go on the side of Frank just trying to make everybody happy. Everybody's happy. I mean, the work that you did in free agency tells the story. I mean, it's tough to make up for benching a guy and then paying a 38-year-old $25 million to take his place and then saying, well, you're going to get 5 to 7 plays. I mean, yeah. That's a tough one. If you're on hold, I'll get back to you. Top of the hour, Xavier Rhodes will join us at the Colts secondary on the Eddie Moore Automotive Group hotline. ESPN.com covers the Browns. We'll talk some AFC North and other stuff with Jake Trotter. Hello, Jake. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
What do you think about what your team has done and then the other teams within your division that you cover have done to this point in free agency?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the most aggressive teams in free agency in a lot of ways, and really out of the gate, you know, it was all about how can they better support quarterback Baker Mayfield on and off the field. And day one, they signed Austin Hooper, who was arguably the top tight end on the market available. They signed Jack Conklin from Tennessee, who was the top right tackle on the market. And they brought in Case Keenum to be the backup quarterback. And I think more than, you know, being a guy that could come in a pinch and win you a game, you know, they really felt like Case would be the kind of player that could help Baker develop as a mentor in the quarterback room. So they were very aggressive offensively in trying to put Baker in better positions. And then defensively, a lot of one-year deals, you know, with some veterans trying to, you know, buy some time for the younger players to develop without, you know, really having a dip defensively in the meantime.
Jake Trotter's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I remember I was up at camp last year, and there was just so much going on, so much buzz about that team that you cover, and everybody was excited, and that was like the high point of the season in Cleveland. With the work they have done, with the change at coach, with the free agency, what do you think you're going to see next year compared to the mess most of the time that it was last year?
Yeah, it's a little bit hard to predict with the Browns because I think we're all a little bit gun shy after what happened last year. You know, you're mentioning the hype, and then you look at that team on paper they had going into the 2019 season, and it was hard to figure out like how this team wouldn't make the playoffs. When you look at, you know, a guy like Nick Chubb at running back, the receiving core they had, Baker coming off that fabulous rookie season, and then some defensive stars like Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward, and you know, just didn't come together for a variety of different reasons. One thing about the new regime that they have is they're all on the same page, which was not the case last year and really hasn't been the case in Cleveland for a long time. So, you know, we'll see if the page that they're on is the right one, but at least they have a plan and they're all on the same page from front office to the coaching staff. And I think that's a step in the right direction. And they still have, a talent pool that I think a lot of teams would love to have themselves. I mean,
I would agree with that.
Got a lot of talent there.
Jake, and also I kind of want your comparison on what they're doing in Pittsburgh and Roethlisberger coming back in comparison to the Browns next year, and then where are they compared to what we have seen in a mammoth explosion over the past season in Baltimore, even though it didn't end well for the Ravens. Give me a comparison to those front runners within the division.
Yeah, I think there's a sense that the Browns maybe missed their opportunity, their window last year because, you can't count on a guy like Ben Roethlisberger missing virtually an entire season with an injury. And, that took Pittsburgh from being a good bet to make the playoffs to be a team that was scrambling throughout the year and really didn't have it offensively. And so now, presumably Roethlisberger will be back. So I don't think there's any doubt that Baltimore and Pittsburgh are the top two teams in the division going into the season. So it's going to be tough. But, if you look at Cleveland, you look at your young guys, you hope that they, will all take a step forward, namely Baker Mayfield. And, I think the Browns still believe that guy who finished second in the Offensive Rookie of the Year voting 2 years ago is still there. And if he plays at that level, Cleveland can compete with the likes of Baltimore and Pittsburgh.
So Jay Trotter, he covers the Browns for ESPN.com. He's via the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. With the change in coach, I should say, I'll get to the Colts in a second, but the change in coach there, give me a thought or give us a thought on the overall change in philosophy and maybe a reinforcement in accountability that many thought was not there for that team a year ago.
Yeah, I think that's a fair criticism. There were a lot of weird events that happened related to this team. You go back to the joint practices they had with the Colts, where it seemed like there was a fight every other play.
Yep.
And that carried over into the season when they played Tennessee in the Week 1 opener. They had 20 penalties. You can't win in the NFL shooting yourself in the foot to that degree. So they're going to have to, I think, and they said a lot of veterans on 1-year deals for the defensive side. They hope that will help the locker room too, that they'll have, some more maturity in there. But, with Stefanski, I think on the field, you're going to see, a more concerted effort to establishing the running game. You're going to see a lot of double tight sets, and you're going to see play action. And I think that they believe that's something that Baker Mayfield can really thrive in. Whereas last year, they were trying to work the ball downfield and they just didn't have the offensive line protection to make that work.
Yeah. And listen, I was there too, and I mentioned that as we first started the conversation and all that fighting that was going on, and you said kind of went into the season. I remember that because it all ended when Reese Fountain went down with that injury, that non-contact season-ending injury. That's when all that bickering and all that saltiness kind of stopped right then and right there.
Yeah, and I think, listen, Cleveland has been – the punching bag for a long time. And, I think that the coaching staff last year wanted them to, quote unquote, impose their will on other people. But you have to be disciplined at the same time where you're going to do that. And I think that what happened in that joint practice was kind of a harbinger of what kind of team this would become. Very undisciplined, tons of penalties, and just no accountability off the field.
So Jake Trotter, ESPN.com's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. We remember, obviously, Andrew Berry's time when he was here. What's been the thought on the work that he is doing as general manager in Cleveland right now and working with others, all in all, what the resume looks like in this short window of time from his standpoint?
Well, Cleveland, really going back to when they came back in 1999, but certainly since the Haslams bought the team 8 years ago, they've had this problem with arranged marriages in the front office and the coaching staff, and it's really plagued them. And I think is a big reason why they have not been able to develop any continuity. So, the one thing that's different this year is they have a general manager and a head coach and a chief strategy officer who has a big role as well, and Paul DePodesta. All working together. Last year was almost like the Browns had two front offices working independent of one another, with John Dorsey in the scouting department and then DePodesta in the analytics department. That's all gone. And so you see, kind of a unified effort. And, you see their plan, kind of coming together in free agency where, they're doubling down on Baker Mayfield with the signings they made. They've invested a lot of money in complementary pieces, and then defensively, they're going to try to plug the holes while they can with short-term deals to let their younger guys grow, to buy some time for them. So, again, I don't know, if this is going to work, but at least they're all on the same page, and I think that's a big step in the right direction for this franchise. And Andrew Berry's, at the forefront of that. A guy that, I think he just turned 33 this week, incredibly young, but, a guy that a lot of people speak highly of, was here in Cleveland before he went to Philadelphia after, he left Indianapolis. And, he's got a lot of pressure to make this work because, Baker Mayfield is going to have his fourth head coach already, his third offensive coordinator. He's going to be extension eligible after the next season. So there's a lot riding on this season coming up and what the Browns can do in the short term.
Let me give you an example here of, let's just say, for the sake of the question, you got a trio here, DePodesta, Berry, Stefanski. Who would have the loudest decision-making voice of those three?
Well, you would hope it would be Berry as the general manager, but it is interesting in that all three report to ownership directly. So
I guess I should have said that too. I should have said Haslam.
Yeah.
So
really, it really is Jimmy Haslam, and they've had the structure before where everybody reported to ownership, and it's led to some trust issues,
sure.
Some collaboration issues. At least with these three guys, DePodesta wanted to hire Stefanski last year. That's his guy. Andrew Berry is somebody that everybody is on board with, because they hired their head coach before they brought in the GM. So they let Stefanski have a say in that as well. So you would think there would be some synergy there between the three. But when you're asking me, who's going to have the biggest say, I think it's Jimmy Haslam, because all three of those guys are going to report to ownership, and it's going to be interesting to see, long term how the power structure evolves, and hopefully for Cleveland it evolves in a way in which everybody remains on the same page.
Yeah, man, I don't know. You know what I mean? That sounds.
Track record is not great, but yeah.
Yeah, listen, it doesn't. If they win, it doesn't matter, and then everything's golden, and everybody's 100% on each other's side, and working toward the big picture. But boy, if it doesn't, it's an absolute mess, and that's a fine line right there. It is. Jake Trotter joins us. All right, T.J. Carey was signed via free agency last week by the Colts. I was going to ask you, not knowing a great deal of his background, what did you think of him while he was there as a player? What are the Colts ultimately getting here to solidify that secondary, in your opinion?
Yeah, it was a little bit surprising they terminated his contract. He was a solid player for the Browns last year. He's a guy that can play on the outside. He spent a good chunk of last season as sort of the nickel back in their 5 DB looks. I think if last year's regime had been back, the chances that he would have been back as well, I think would have gone up. So, but they're changing the defensive scheme. Tackling is a premium at that position in the scheme they want to run under new defensive coordinator Joe Woods. And I guess they felt like, TJ wasn't a good fit there. But, this is a guy that, he's a good locker room guy, good teammate. He was the least of their problems last year, in terms of chemistry and off the field. And, he was a guy that was very reliable for the Browns in his time in Cleveland.
When Andrew Luck was here, and not that matters any longer, when he was here, he didn't do any national commercial stuff. He waited for a while to solidify before he did it. Baker Mayfield kind of just jumped right in. Was that a point of contention from those in Cleveland, considering how a year ago went at quarterback for him and that team?
Well, I think the fans got very frustrated by that when the Browns were losing, and it wasn't ideal for Baker to have those commercials running during a timeout when they're 5-8 and down 20 points, and it just wasn't the greatest optics for sure. But it's hard to fault him for capitalizing on the momentum he had from his rookie season. And, I think it's been a different, it's been a little bit of a different approach from Baker this offseason. You really have not heard from him very much. It was totally different last year. He got married, had a big wedding out in California. He had the commercials. He had the GQ magazine cover story where, he was calling out.
That's never any good, right? That's never any good right there. Never.
Yeah. So there was just, I think it amplified the struggles. To me, like with Baker, there wasn't a lot of leadership in that locker room last year. Baker was one of those guys they really needed to be a leader. And I think it was hard for him to be that guy when he was struggling so much on the field. And then at other times, maybe almost overcompensated because, they needed that. So, in talking to Baker, especially down the stretch last year, that was one area that I think he learned a lot about. You got to be the same consistent leader every day. And to me, that had more of an effect than on the team in that locker room than the commercials did, which obviously annoyed a lot of the Browns fans as they continue to lose, and then made Baker a target. For other teams' fan bases and in the media for sure.
It's a final thing with Jake Trotter, who covers the Browns for ESPN.com. This has been a point that has been made throughout the NFL, and the owners seem to think, or at least believe, in an outspoken fashion, that the NFL season is going to go off without a hitch. And believe me, I don't mind, putting the hope out there, even though we're a minute-by-minute, hour-by-hour, day-by-day society as it stands with the coronavirus right now. But many people have been outspoken, Jake, suggesting that was, tone deaf, for example, by the NFL owners and the NFL believing that they're going to go untouched to this point season-wise. You think that was the wrong tack to take?
I don't know. Here's what I do know. I don't know what the world is going to look like.
I don't either.
2 weeks from now.
I agree.
Much less 4 months from now. I mean, think about how much has changed since, what was it, like March 10th, whatever night that was when, Rudy Gobert tested positive in Oklahoma City for the coronavirus, and Tom Hanks came out on Twitter and the president gave his address. I mean, how dramatically everything is changed just in those last 2 or 3 weeks. I don't know what anything is going to look like a week from now, much less September. So, people can be optimistic and say that they, think that the NFL is going to be fine. I don't think anybody definitively knows what's going to happen. So I have no idea.
And I think
neither do any of us.
I think it's okay to be optimistic. I do. I think it's okay to show some hope, because I think everybody around knows, what we feel. I mean, that you don't know, but I don't mind talking about, hardcore dates or this is when this is going to happen. I don't take offense, I guess, to that conversation being had as others do, Jake.
I was curious, how free agency was going to go, because, there was some talk about delaying free agency and that, the tone wasn't appropriate given what the country was about to go through. And actually, and I didn't know either. I was kind of like worried about it as well, but it really felt like it was, a respite for fans, for people, kind of a nice distraction to have, especially with no other sports going on. I think the draft has the potential to serve us in a similar way, especially considering they can do it, remotely and digitally almost with, not being the pomp and circumstance of the past. But, again, it's hard to predict anything at this point. And, I'm certainly not going to make any predictions about anything, because I don't know what things are going to look like Friday again, much less, it's September 1st.
Jake, that's really good stuff, man. I appreciate you. Appreciate your time, the effort, the conversation, and we'll do it again soon, man. And hang in there and stay safe and healthy.
You too. Thanks.
Jake Trotter, ESPN.com. Andy Moore, Automotive Group Hotline. If you're watching on YouTube and YouTube Live, as Andy Hughes is right now, nice shirt. I was the 1986 Shelby County Mellow Yellow Chugging Champion. Here's the thing. Most people would take every day, including Sunday, and maybe even an eighth day of the week, and select Mellow Yellow. I should say select Mountain Dew over Mellow Yellow. I'd go for the old school. I don't drink it. I'd go for the old school Mellow Yellow right here. The Coca-Cola bottling company version of Mountain Dew back in the day. I think Mellow Yellow came at us in, 78? And how I know that is beyond me. I believe Mellow Yellow was created in 1978 to help counter Mountain Dew. JMV, that hair is just beautiful. By God, it is. And I don't think it's going to get cut for a long time. I don't know what the hell I'm going to end up looking like. I'm going to look like 1993 JMV here pretty soon. I'm going to have hair, and it's going to be weird. It is. So thanks for watching YouTube Live. It is the 107.5 The Fan channel. If you guys want to jump on board, and I'll read what you're saying there just like I do on Twitter, and my apologies for neglecting you. I can see it. I'm not checked in yet, and I'm not sure how to sign in here, but I can see what you're saying. And go ahead. You can say some dumbass stuff if you want. That's okay. I don't mind. I got somebody checked in right now, a Colts fan from Vallejo, California, the Bay Area. Shout out to Vallejo, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It sounds like a-hole, but Vallejo, California, in the Bay Area. Shout out right there. Raymond Long says, I was close. March the 1st, 1979. Damn it. The story of my life. 1 year off. Quick one, we shall come back. Your calls, Xavier Rhodes for the first time on this show coming up at the top of the hour. Clayton Anderson, Kevin Bowen, and you at 239-1070. Back with you next.
Sports with Dan Dockett.
Tucker Barnhart, who's the best baseball player you have ever played against?
Mike Trout, and it's not even close. One of the scouting databases we use gives you hot, cold zones, and literally there is only one or two very small spots on Mike Trout's plan that you can go to, and if you don't, he kills everything else. I feel like he could play linebacker in the NFL. I feel like he could do just about whatever he wants.
Dan Dockett, weekdays, noon till 3 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Hey, it's Big Joe, and during this unprecedented time when we're asked to stay at home and keep our distance from one another, my friends at Penske Chevrolet are coming to the rescue. Did you know Penske Chevy has a mobile pit stop truck service covering most makes and models so routine maintenance can be done right there at your house? Just call 317-605-0743 to set up an appointment and to find out more about all the services that are offered. That's 317-605-0743 for anyone living in Indianapolis and surrounding communities. Penske Chevy also has a comprehensive website, PenskeChevy.com. It's updated constantly with new and used cars, trucks, SUVs, and crossovers that are available for purchase or lease. Part of the Penske promise is the guaranteed lowest price on any in-stock Chevy product, so you always get the best deal. And when you find a vehicle you're interested in from internet shopping and are ready for a test drive, a Penske sales associate will bring it straight to your door. These services have always been available from Penske Chevrolet, and now more than ever, you need them. Indy's preferred Chevrolet dealership at 96th and Keystone and online at PenskeChevy.com. Chevy, find new roads.
Hey, it's John here from my friends at Connecticut. So if you're concerned about your water quality, you might be considering a home water treatment equipment, and Connecticut's the absolute best. But obviously, with everything that's going on right now, you're hesitant to have a company test your water or do an in-home presentation. That's why Joe, John, and Dennis, my friends at Connecticut, are now offering virtual sales demonstrations. Connecticut understands the water problems in your area and can make recommendations for your water via video conference. Just another way they're trying to help. And these are challenging times, and you might notice companies are selling out of bottled water. I'll give you a great example. With the K5 in-home drinking water station, you don't need bottled water any longer. And they've got a deal. The K5 and a Premier Series water softener, you buy that right now, they'll give you $1,200 in a rebate. And then you get the greatness that is my friends at Connecticut, Northeast Side, Castleton, Southside, US 31, and Southport Road. All the info that you need via smartphone right now. Download the Connecticut app or everything else that's necessary for you to contact Joe, John, and Dennis today. That's ConnecticutIndy.com.
How more Hoosiers are being tested. From the WIBC Newsroom, I'm Chris Davis with your coronavirus update. Drive-through testing is now being offered by Eli Lilly for people who work in essential businesses and who have regular contact with the public. It's also being offered for people over 65 who are showing symptoms or people under 65 with symptoms who have a serious underlying illness and those with uncontrolled medical issues. You still have to have a doctor's orders. 2,565 Hoosiers have tested positive. 65 people in Indiana have died from the virus. As you wait for those federal stimulus checks to arrive, you'll also want to watch out for calls from scammers trying to get your money. Madison McGill reports.
The scammers are posing as IRS agents, says Attorney General Curtis Hill. And some Hoosiers have already received calls asking for personal and financial information. He says to write down the phone number, hang up, and report the incident to his office.
You've got another update coming up. From the WIBC Newsroom, I'm Chris Davis.
Coming up on tomorrow's Fan Morning Show, new Colts cornerback TJ Carey joins us at 9. We also talked to Scott Agnes about the Pacers and NBA and Zach Kiefer and the Colts. We'd love for you to join us. We start at 7.
The Ride with JMV.
If peeing your pants is cool, consider me Miles Davis.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
I think I just gave everybody the finger on YouTube Live. Take that. Oh. James Hawkins says I'm a stooge, and there's a lot of truth to that. There's no question. JMV, should Chris Ballard trade down for Derek Brown? I think, honestly, that the Colts need to hang where they are with these 2 second-rounders in the third, unless you find something else in the third that you can get an extra pick with, and you can get something similar to. To me, I go wide receiver, quarterback, and tight end. 1, 2, 3. 2 seconds and a third. That's how it'd go. Like Matt Miller has them selecting Jalen Hurts. I don't know. Who's he have? Jalen Hurts and then Chase Claypool, the wide receiver. And all you guys would all be happy about that. This is good. I got Captain Everyman fighting with people about quarterbacks, and this is good. That's what we need right here. It's from Mark Clark at JMV. My third favorite Tarantino film behind Pulp Fiction and Jackie Brown would be Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. You know, it's in my top 3 right now. And I might put it up. It's tied for second. Actually, right now, living in the now, I would rather watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood because I've seen Pulp Fiction 1,000 times and Reservoir Dogs 1,000 times. Those are my top 2. It is right there. Right stinking there. And Margot Robbie is hello. Even with dirty feet. Hello. Do you see her dirty feet? You see when she's at the theater and she takes her shoes off and puts her feet up, she got dirty feet.
I haven't seen the movie yet. Have you seen? She's in Wolf of Wall Street too. I mean, that's not a Tarantino.
I've never seen that. I've never seen it.
That's
I've got to see
good.
that. Is she naked in that? Well, hello. Why have I not seen it? What am I doing?
That's Scorsese.
Yeah, I don't know why I haven't seen that because it's never on any. I've got a zillion movie channels, and that son of a gun's never on.
I think it has the record for most F-bombs in a movie.
Yeah.
I think it's number 1. Number 1 and number 2.
I love a good F-bomb. JMV, don't sleep on Inglourious Bastards. I do like that. And Pitt's similar in this as he is in that, I think, character-wise. I mean, this is kind of gives me a similar vibe. But I do like it. JMV, Jacoby is one play where Rivers gets hurt and he's back as a starter. He's the best position he could be in right here. Yeah, I mean, sure. But Rivers, I know he's 38, but he's not notorious for being that type of player that gets injured and has to sit. I know you got to protect yourself. Let's face it. I mean, you're keeping Jacoby right now because there's really no other options, right? I mean, there's no need to trade. You don't have to do anything quickly. And what Frank was doing yesterday, he was just selling everybody on, hey, the cohesion of the locker room. You know, we love this guy, but we demoted his ass. We love him, but he got demoted. We love him here. 5 to 7 plays, maybe. which would be down from, I don't know, being the starter last year. I get it. I think it's more that than it is anything else. I mean, is there anybody out there that expects the Colts to go ahead and roll with Jacoby 5 to 7 plays a game when you're not the holder? Anybody? Yeah, I didn't think so. But I do understand it. I don't have a problem. It's weird. I mean, I know in the media things get blown out of proportion and you don't want that, but I think that signing a 38-year-old and giving him $25 million and then handing that job to him and demoting the other guy, I think that's saying enough. Quick one, we'll come back. Clayton Anderson, bottom of the hour, is doing something great coming up via social media. The country music singer joins us. But on the other side, brand new Colts defensive back Xavier Rhodes is set to join us on 93.5 and 107.5 FM The Fan.
I want you to listen to this. Is breaking. The Indianapolis 500 will be ran August 23rd. Good.
Well, we knew it was coming, or at least I was pretty certain it was coming.
At least we're running, baby.
Looks like that there's no Carb Day, there's no Legends Day.
And those events are not cheap. I still suspect they'll come up with something.
If you're talking about it.
And it may just be you shotgunning beers on the stage.
Yeah, and that's fine with me.
We're talking about it. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Hey, Johnny, for Indiana's best, it's Andy Moore, Toyota in Avon. 5 miles west of 465 on US 36. Still providing you the best service, even with service adjustments, which obviously going through this time will happen. But I can tell you this, you're still going to get the best deals and the absolute best customer service of anybody at Indiana's best. Here's all you need to do right now. Just go ahead and log on, AndyMooreToyota.com. If you're in the market for a new or quality pre-owned vehicle, that is the place to go. Just log on, find that vehicle. They got them all right there in front of you. And then let Ben Mendoza, the best in the business, go to work for you. He and the staff, always job number one is the car buyer. That's how you're going to be treated. And obviously, following CDC recommended guidelines over in Avon is also job number one right now. But you can just figure out what you want by virtue of AndyMooreToyota.com and then let Ben Mendoza and somebody on the staff go to work for you. It's Indiana's best for a reason. It's Andy Moore Toyota in Avon, 5 miles west of 465 on US 36.
Here's what's happening with The Fan.
It's the pop quiz every weekday morning with Jeff and Big Joe, The Fan Morning Show. Tune in to test your sports knowledge at approximately 9:30. Having withdrawals from The Fan on your drive to and from work, we can fix that. Go to 1075thefan.com. It's your chance to win an Amazon Echo Dot. And The Fan supports local restaurants. You can do the same. Go to 1075thefan.com to check out what places are offering delivery options, because we're all in this together.
For more information, just click on 1075thefan.com.
Sports Center updates on The Fan are brought to you by Big O Tires. Big O Tires is locally owned and operated with no credit-needed financing options available. Big O Tires, the team you trust.
This is Indy Sports Center. WFNI, WIBC, HD2, W298BV, W228CX, Indianapolis. Soccer Saturday featuring Indy 11. If this is your football, this is your show. Saturday at 9 on The Fan. The Ride with JMV.
Awesome! Totally awesome! All right, Hamilton.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Clayton Anderson, bottom of the hours, doing something great for local business, local restaurants and bars and grills. We'll talk about that with Clayton. Coming up in about 30 minutes, Kevin Bowen, 1075thefan.com. Thank you for the YouTube live check-in. Sergio is checking in from Brazil. And I'm assuming Sergio Lemos is not checking in from Brazil, Indiana. I don't think this is the Brazil in Clay County. I think this is the country. Shout out to Sergio for doing that. More of your calls, 239-1070 if you guys want to jump on board. And again, podcasts from the past week and last week. Sheldon Day, the great Tom Watson, the golfer, earlier this week, and, of course, Phillip Rivers last week. And along the lines of yet another free agent signing by Chris Ballard and the Colts on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, let's bring on board defensive back Xavier Rhodes for the first time. Xavier, thank you for the time. How are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing great. How are you doing?
We're trying to hang in there, man. It's like a minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day thing. It's completely uncharted territory, and I'm assuming it's absolutely the same for you.
Yeah, just can't wait for this to be over so we can get back out there and play.
Yeah, no doubt. I want to talk about when you obviously were talking about in the Zoom press conference you had with the local media a couple of days ago. It doesn't feel good about the situation with the Vikings, but how good does it feel going to a place that clearly wants you and clearly needs you in that secondary right now as a change of scenery for you?
It was good. The fact that I can go and help the guys and direct the guys in the right direction, how to be pros, even though there's some guys there, the guys that know how to be a pro. But give them my knowledge, help them out and be better at their craft, and hopefully they can be great at what they do.
Xavier Rhodes on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I'm assuming that something did sell you on the Colts. I don't know other opportunities you might have had. Maybe you don't want to mention it, but I'm just kind of curious. What's the overall best selling point that the Colts made and Chris Ballard pitch-wise made to you as this being the best change of pace from Minnesota for you?
It was one, just the whole staff period. When we was contacting them guys, they seemed pretty excited. And they wanted me there, and they told me the things that I like to hear. Me and my agent would love hearing. And also it's a fresh start, being able to have a fresh start and working with J.G. and Allen, the two guys that was at Minnesota with me. So it just felt good, felt right, and felt like it was a great move. Me and my agent felt like it was a great move for me.
It's funny, too. You mentioned your former positions coaches you had in Minnesota. Does that make it a lot easier to make that transition from a place, and really in the NFL, the only place you have known, to the Colts, especially with what we're going through right now, because there's just not a lot of normalcy in which, if any, you can do right now. But how much easier does that make the transition knowing people here?
Them guys, them two basically really know me as a player and a person. So they know how to make it easier for me to understand the playbook, introduce me to the guys in a great way where those guys can understand me as a player and a person too. Make the whole transition easier for me rather than going in, having to get to know everyone and making the coaching staff and my DB room, the DB coaches, and to get to know me, which now I feel comfortable with being myself.
Well, I hear a little shut in and sheltered in going on in the background there. I hear that.
Yeah. I just came back from getting some stuff for the house, so I realized that.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get some stuff moving around in the house right now.
Yeah, it's Xavier Rhodes, sheltered in, as you can hear in the background on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. That's okay, because that's what everybody, for the most part, is going through right now. I mentioned, and you said this at the outset, we can't wait until we get back to anything. I mean, grasp anything that is a sense of normalcy right now. How has this changed your routine this time of year? Because, I mean, it's a 365 thing for you as a football player in the NFL, but how has this changed up your workout regimen, if it has at all?
Oh, it hasn't. I mean, I always worked out. I always have my private workouts, so I always have one guy I work out with, and so it's always a private gym, and we always find a private field to go do workouts. So it really haven't changed anything with me. My work ethic and my workouts is basically still the same.
How does this defense best benefit you and your skill set in the secondary?
I was talking to the coaches, and then they telling me they're going to allow me to be me and be physical. Some things that is going to change, and talking to Anthony Walker and some of the other guys on defense, telling me the certain things they do on defense and how it's going to change, how we're going to play zone, which I'm not really familiar with, but I'm not afraid to get familiar with it. So that right there alone, just going to try to implement some of my strengths and some of the play calling. I think it's going to fit well.
What are your strengths? Maybe tell the folks that haven't seen you a great deal, because you've been in Minnesota, the strengths that you can add to that secondary for this team.
Oh, man, I mean, I think just leadership, passion, aggression, bringing the team together. You know, when I was at Minnesota, you know, I was one of those guys that brought the passion and the energy to the team, you know. So me bringing that to Indianapolis is going to be a great thing. Bringing the unity to the team is going to help us go a long way.
So Xavier Rhodes of the Colts on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So I talked to somebody from ESPN.com that covered you and your team in the past up in Minneapolis and described you as a great teammate. The last 2 years had been tough, especially the last one for you, but always kind of counted on you to be there, to be conversational, to kind of lead that team. How do you view yourself in the leadership category, just going beyond what you can do physically on the football field, Xavier?
Just helping out with my experience, explaining to those guys about my experience about going through tough times, especially the last previous year is going to be a great example with players actually going through something mentally. I can help those guys with and fight through. Just sitting there talking to those guys about, you know, how to be a pro, how to be working your body and everything else I have done and learned from other players and learned from myself. So being able to be that vocal leader to sit there and tell those guys in my room how to be pros.
Xavier Rhodes with us. It has been described, and we've had basically everybody on in this Colts locker room. That is a really good locker room. And you mentioned you've talked to Anthony Walker, and you're not going to find a better dude in the NFL than that guy, to say the least, in most qualities. But the locker room in which you were in, how was that compared to in Minnesota compared to what you expect here in Indy, Xavier?
Oh, in Minnesota, we was a tight unit, especially the secondary. You know, I'm planning on bringing that to Indy. You know, the things we did as a group, we sat there, we did things together, bowled, go host a night at Monday Night Football at one of each other's houses. We did it so much together to the point where we was a tight bunch, felt like a brotherhood. That's why I want to bring the Indy to the point where we all can be on one accord. We all can watch film together. So we know if someone was to mess up on one play, how we can correct them on the next. So just to bring that unit and that unity to this team, what I learned and was taught at Minnesota, I'm definitely going to bring it there to Indy.
Here's Xavier Rhodes on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. You had mentioned that it was time for you to get that change of scenery. When was it ultimately evident for you that, you know what, I do need to change the pace here in my career?
I mean, it was talked about with my family and my agent. You know, I just felt like, some things I needed to correct with my game, but it's just a time for senior. You've been there for quite a long time. Just go a new route. I mean, try something new, and we all knew that one player and not many players stay at one team their whole career, so it was just that time to just try something new.
Yeah, no doubt about that. What was your high point, not just individually as a player, but your high point moment as a member of the Vikings?
Well, can you rephrase that?
Yeah. What was best moment as a member of the Vikings team? Yeah, I'm kind of thinking the playoff game with Stephon Diggs, I guess.
Playoff games.
Yeah, that's what I'm going for.
Yeah, playoff games. Definitely. Just the camaraderie, just being around those guys, man. It's nothing like being around a group of guys that's on one accord. Being around a group of guys that love being around each other. It's not arguing, fighting about anything. We were just a group of guys that would just sit there and conversate about any and everything. There's some teams, I don't know, I haven't been on any other teams, but it was word that some guys don't get along with other guys. But when I was in Minnesota, everyone got along with each other. It was the O-linemen talking to the DBs, hanging out with the DBs, and it was kind of, you would look at it like it was kind of strange, but we were all one team. We was all one heartbeat. And to have that was the most memorable moment for me, to just sit there and just have all this talent on one team and no one have an ego issue, and we all come together as one and play together as one.
I know you get asked all the time, I'm sure, regarding the Diggs moment and that playoff game. Did you think you guys were done?
I mean, everyone on the sideline believed we were done.
I'm glad you're honest. I mean, so listen, some people would say, oh, no, not until the last possible down or whatever. Yeah.
Our head was down. We was like, oh, man, we giving each other hugs like, man, better luck next year and shit. Crap. So, with Diggs making
That's all right, man. You say what you feel. That's all good, man. We got to say what we feel.
Yeah. But honestly, the honesty and telling that moment really is surreal, because that's what we was actually thinking. And for that play to happen, you can only imagine our reaction, our emotions, and how it was flowing through. The whole crowd was thinking the same and believing the same thing. And for that play to happen, I mean, the crowd, we literally stayed on the field and the crowd stayed in the stands for a whole nother hour and a half, still yelling, still going crazy. And the game was over for an hour. It was been over. And we still in the stands. We went in the locker room and the crowd was still out there chanting. That's how electrifying, that's how big that moment was for the Viking fans and for us.
Yeah, and to me, what stands out is Paul Allen, the longtime play-by-play man up there, went from, basically wanting to go hide in a mountain cave for the next 6 months to being as jovial and euphoric in a game-winning call that anybody will ever hear. I mean, that does, and you've lived through it. I mean, that does kind of pull out emotions that you probably sure as hell didn't know that you had at that time until it happened.
Man, listen, my family probably never seen me cry straight a tip, but they definitely seen it that night.
All right. What number? You were 29 in Minneapolis. Is that what you were back then?
Yeah, 29.
What are you wearing here?
We didn't discuss it, but definitely I'm trying to go back to my college number 27. So I'm trying to figure out if that number available. If so, that's the number I'm gonna have.
Hey, Kyle, look that up right now. I don't know. I can't remember my own phone number, much less numbers right now. But Kyle, I'm going to ask my producer right now if 27 on the Colts is it taken? It doesn't stand out to me right now. I sound stupid. I'm trying to stretch here, Xavier, so bear with me just for a moment. See if Kyle can find if 27 is available. And that's going back to your college number. It is available, so I guess you're all good.
I'm all good. I guess it's going to be 27.
Would you pay somebody to get your college number back if it were taken here?
I don't know. I mean, 27 is a big number for me because that's the number my mentor, Terrell Buckley, had.
Right.
And that's the guy that helped me transition from wide receiver to corner in college. So that's a big part of my game. That's a big part of who I am as a player now. Because when I was at Florida State, I wasn't really all that good as a corner. I was really, coming from receiver to corner and within a week of being there. So it was really tough on me. And for him to sit there and work and spend time with me to work on that craft and give me the knowledge of it, that number means a lot to me.
When they asked you to change positions, did you think they were crazy?
I believe so, yes. I was trying to transfer.
Yeah. How close were you? And was it Terrell Buckley how much did he play a role in talking you out of all that?
A huge role. Literally, a lot of people don't know this story, but it was to a point where I think I was getting beat badly. I couldn't cover anyone. I think that's like my third day playing corner in my life. And I said, forget this. I got upset, threw my helmet and shoulder pads down and walked out. I was walking off the field, and Terrell Buckley ran me down. It's like, just give it a week, give it a try, give it another week. He said, you have the talent, you have the ability. You just got to believe in yourself and believe in the coaching I'm giving you. And him and Patrick Robinson both stopped me and talked to me. And then I gave it a month, and I became one of the top corners coming out of college.
I'm going to tell you what, beyond any other position in football, and I mean on every level, cornerback, defensive back is the one that's really going to jack with your mind, isn't it?
I can't hear you because there's a car going by.
No, that's okay. I mean, playing corner, playing defensive back above all other. And listen, I'll compare it to quarterback as far as things playing on your mind and how quickly you have to forget and how you cannot make these snap judgments of, you know what, I just got my ass whipped and now I'm going to quit. I mean, that's got to be as mental of a position that you could deal with in any form of sport, is it not?
Yeah, it is, because like you say, you can get beat on one route, but then you have what? It could be first down, you can beat on the route. You have literally three more plays, 3 more chances at it. So you have to let that route go. You have to let that play go and move on to the next, because you don't know what the next play can hold. That next play, you can get caught on the slant, but then on the comeback you can pick it off. Then that play before that on that slant, you can completely forget about it. Everyone completely forget about that slant that we just caught on you. So it's a mental game. It's a mental position where it's like quarterback. You have to let your mistakes go and look forward and look for the positive and strive to help yourself become mentally stronger by making a play, so you can not only help yourself mentally but also help your team with getting the win.
It's and Terrell Buckley saved you. You were gone. You were done.
I was basically gone. Yeah, I was done.
It's amazing. Amazing story, right? See, I would be thinking maybe Deion Sanders or something like that. I know that's going back a little bit further. And I guess I never would have thought Terrell Buckley being the voice of reason for you. I mean, people wouldn't, but that's a hell of a great story right there. You got any others to share before you go? Is that your greatest story?
I gotta save it all. I gotta save all my story. I can't give it all to you in one day.
Wait a minute. I mean, you've had that great story, and you dropped an S-bomb. I mean, we gotta have the trifecta here. All right, give me one final. Close strong.
That was a good, strong closer right there.
It was, man. Hey, I appreciate you. Stay healthy, stay safe, you and the family, and we'll look for maybe as we get closer and hopefully normalcy prevails and we get closer to camp. We'll look for that signature closing story from you then. How about that?
All right, that sounds great.
Hey, congratulations on being here. We'll do it again soon, Xavier. Stay safe.
All right, you too. You and your family.
Xavier Rhodes on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I was going for the trifecta. We had the S-bomb. We had the Terrell Buckley story that he'd never told. Going to save a little bit. Save a little bit for later. Xavier Rhodes on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. That was pretty good right there. Nick says, Xavier Rhodes and S-bomb on the show. My day's made. Hey, listen, man, you got to be real. You know, this is as real as we've all been. I get that. I do. That's a hell of a story right there. It's funny what you stumble on. I didn't have much of an idea. Did you know? That's something. And as it turned out, he ended up being, first round selection back in 2013. It's interesting how close you are to not being that. That was really good. Outstanding. Xavier Rhodes. We'll podcast that up if you missed any of it. Believe me, you'll want to double back and hear it if you missed any of it. 1075thefan.com. A quick shout out to Andrew. Andrew got a little larceny right there locked up, ready to go. Shout out to Heaven Hill. Heaven Hill distilling hand sanitizer and handing it out. Also still making the damn best bourbon ever. And that's Larceny Bourbon right there. Andrew, shout out. Heaven Hill Distillery, shout out. Larceny Bourbon, Brent Holverson, Randy Strand, thank you. That is awesome. I love looking at the reaction right now on YouTube, at YouTube Live. So he did mention that he's going to have to get used to Zone, but he expects to be able to get used to Zone. There was a lot in there. That was pretty good. Yeah, I'd advise you to go back and check it out. That's great. Bart Diggler chimes in with this. Did you vote on Alice in Chains' Twitter feed on their best Unplugged song? See, I may have a problem with this, and I do realize that whole era of MTV Unplugged, whether it was Nirvana or Alice in Chains, people love that. But I'm cut from the cloth or the fabric of, if you got a band like Alice in Chains, if you've got a band like Nirvana, I don't want to hear you unplugged. I don't want to hear you unplugged. Nutshell is good. Sludge Factory is good. No Excuses. Stay Away. I mean, all good. I'm missing some right now. If you're known for rocking it, I don't want to hear you unplugged. I mean, listen, if you're someplace and you go, oh, hell, I don't have any equipment. All I got's my guitar, whatever. But yeah, I don't want to hear Alice in Chains unplugged. I don't want to hear Nirvana unplugged. That's just kind of my thoughts. No, I did not. To answer your question, Bart, in full, I did not vote on it because I don't want to hear them unplugged. I want to hear them fully plugged in. If that makes any sense to you. Absolutely, positively plugged in. Yeah, I just gave everybody right now. I'm giving you guys the finger. Or as I say in Southern Indiana, I'm giving you guys the finger right now on YouTube Live. No. I don't want to hear the Foo Fighters unplugged either. I don't want to hear. I love Everlong, but I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear it unplugged. If you rock it and you're plugged in, that's how I want to hear you. I don't need to hear you any other way. Unplug, spoken word, any of that. I just need to hear you plugged in, and I need you to rock your socks off. I do. I've always felt that way. Shout out to Jim Reed, who is checking in from Flora. Shout out to Flora. Raymond says YouTube is quite a few seconds behind radio. I think Colin and I figured it out. YouTube's, 10 seconds behind? Jay says, show us your guns. Listen, I am right now. I'm doing curls. I told Kyle this earlier. I'm doing curls, and I'm still shooting downstairs. Now, it's going to ruin my shot because the ceiling is low, and I have a high arcing shot if anybody's ever played with me. That's going to kind of ruin it. But at the very least, I can still shoot from the top of the key and, free throws how you normally do. So I'm still trying to play. I'm just not playing with people. I'm just kind of shooting on my own. Still trying to keep that going. And I will also tell you this. Shout out to the Mower Shop in Fishers. Because, damn it, if you haven't done it already, it's going to be time to mow here soon. Is it time to mow for you? I'm not going to mow tomorrow or Friday. Seriously. I may do a video on Facebook of me mowing. I'm going to have to mow tomorrow or Friday. It is time to mow. I think some of you already have. This is a little bit early compared to maybe a week or two compared to the way we were last year. But shout out to Paul and the Mower Shop in Fishers. If you need anything, that's the place. Mower Shop in Fishers with Paul, Sullivan Hardware and Garden with our friend Pat Sullivan. Little local business shout out right there, because unless your name is Kyle Udemark across the board from me, it is time, by God, for you to mow. Now's the time. All right, quick break and we'll come back. He's really doing something great for local restaurants, bar and grills around here. Clayton Anderson's going to have a social media show that he's going to put on. We shall get all the details, how you can watch and how you can help, because we're all in it for local business around here, as we've been doing now since we've gone under these restrictions. We've been doing our local business shout-outs to try to help everybody. Clayton Anderson is doing it for those local restaurants, bars and grills and such. We'll talk to Clayton about that coming up at the bottom of the hour, and Kevin Bowen is going to join us coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. 27 was available. He doesn't have to pay for it, right? Xavier Rhodes wants 27 because Malik Hooker has the number he had in Minnesota, and he does not have to pay for it now. All good. Xavier Rhodes, podcast, 1075thefan.com. Jake Trotter of ESPN.com a little bit earlier. We're going to get Mike Chappell on the show tomorrow. DeRocco is back from Jacksonville from ESPN.com with us coming up on tomorrow's show. The Jaguars look like they're in complete rebuild mode, and I saw Todd McShay's mock draft 4.0 has them selecting Justin Herbert of Oregon at quarterback, which is interesting. Trading Nick Foles, Gardner Minshew. Looks like maybe they're in the market to draft one of these 4 quarterbacks we all believe are going to go in the first round here relatively soon. Obviously, after Cincinnati rolls with that first pick off the board, you're talking, 3 others after that, probably? And that's going to be that right there. Kind of weird when you're thinking about it, too. I've mentioned Jacoby Brissett's situation here as a backup as it stands right now. And then you've got Jameis Winston floating around out there. You have Cam Newton floating around out there. And we really haven't mentioned Andy Dalton. Because, clearly his situation is going to change a great deal, too. Everybody thought Andy Dalton would already have a new home. And then consider this. The Bengals end up drafting Joe Burrow, which they're going to do. You think about the Patriots right now, they have just cut loose Cody Kessler. They let him go. They picked him up at some point this past season. They have Jarrett Stidham and Brian Hoyer right now. 2 quarterbacks. Might they be in the market for one that might be left here? You think? 239-1070. Your phone calls on the other side. Clayton Anderson's doing a great thing. We shall talk about that with our friend, country music standout CA Clayton Anderson. Other side next.
Sports with Dan Dockich.
DeForest Buckner.
When that offer came into my agent, he, told me the offer. I mean, for a team like Indy to want me and, where they wanted to put me in, the position they were going to put me in, I mean, it's only to succeed, to put me around a lot of talented players on defense. Darius Leonard behind me, or Justin Houston on the line with me. You got Kenny Moore at corner. It's a really vicious defense, and I'm excited to get things rolling now.
Dan Dockich, weekdays, noon till 3 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Hey, it's Big Joe, and for years you've been hearing me talk about your local independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealers. Well, during this crisis, we want you to know these neighbors and friends of ours stand at the ready to make sure that your home is ready to be comfortable when things warm up. Wash your hands, clean your surfaces, and keep some distance in public. At home, change your air filters and ask about their AccuClean electronic air filter. Find a local American Standard dealer like Family Heating and Air Conditioning at IndyHomeComfort.com.
Here's what's happening with the Fan.
It's the Pop Quiz every weekday morning with Jeff and Big Joe, the Fan Morning Show. Tune in to test your sports knowledge at approximately 9:30. Having withdrawals from the Fan on your drive to and from work, we can fix that. Go to 1075thefan.com. It's your chance to win an Amazon Echo Dot. And the Fan supports local restaurants. You can do the same. Go to 1075thefan.com to check out what places are offering delivery options, because we're all in this together.
For more information, just click on 1075thefan.com.
The coronavirus has had a huge impact in all of our lives. Schools are closing, spring breaks have been canceled, and sports have been put on hold. But that doesn't mean that you can't take advantage of these super low mortgage rates and save hundreds of dollars a month. The Home Loan Experts 5-Minute Loan Approval is a full-service digital mortgage. You can do it all from the comfort of your own home. How much money could you save? Let's find out now. The 5-Minute Loan Approval, only available at thehomeloanexpert.com. The Home Loan Expert LLC, NMLS number 1326241.
Sports Center updates on the Fan are brought to you by Big O Tires. Big O Tires is locally owned and operated with no credit-needed financing options available. Big O Tires, the team you trust.
It's the Fan Morning Show with Jeff and Big Joe.
Tom Allen.
There's still a lot of unknowns about how the rest of spring and summer is going to play itself out, but we do know that it's going to be cut short. That's the challenging part, but we have to motivate our guys and make them understand how critical it is to maximize this time, because even though no one's watching right now, eventually it will get exposed to who did and who didn't take full advantage of this time.
The Fan Morning Show with Jeff and Big Joe. Weekday mornings 7 till 10. Only on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. The Ride with JMV.
The sportos, the motorheads, geeks, sluts, bloods, wastoids, dweebies, they all adore him. They think he's a righteous dude.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Same old king from the same old cooler, but something's different, man. This beer tastes better on Fridays.
I'll be damned, though. I could have one right now on a Wednesday. Clayton Anderson right there from Torn Jeans and Tailgates. And Clayton's doing a really good thing for folks here as far as restaurant, bars and grills are concerned, which I think is awesome. If you missed any of Xavier Rhodes, you'll probably want to double back and hear it. 1075thefan.com. He was really good. Had a great story that nobody knew regarding Terrell Buckley at Florida State. And also had an S-bomb dropped, which is great. We love that. And saving something a little bit extra later on. Xavier Rhodes on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. You can find it 1075thefan.com via podcast. Kevin Bowen still to come in the 5 o'clock hour, but our friend on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline always doing a great deal of good out there. It's Clayton Anderson with us right now. Where are you presently?
My man. We are actually practicing so we don't mess this thing up tomorrow night.
Where are you rehearsing? Where's your rehearsal taking place?
Down there in old Bloomington, Indiana, Monroe County down there, getting crazy.
Woo, man.
Trying to stay away from all them dummies that went on spring break.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy times we're living in, man. Crazy times.
You and I were talking earlier today, and I agree with you. I had to get some supplies to my mom. I had to. I mean, she's running out, and she lives by herself, so I had to run down to GC, and I tried to keep my distance, man. I mean, I did. This whole thing scares me, especially when we're talking about our parents in this case. It really does.
Absolutely. It's hard. I've been taking it really serious. I've also been trying to keep a happy attitude about it. It is what it is. We got to get through it. But hopefully, it was tough. I had to go by my grandma's house and wave at her through the window because the FaceTime and the Zoom. It's just human beings. We need that interaction. We're well, I don't know. I do. I'm a hugger, so I don't know. It's been tough. That's the hardest part because I don't want to get them sick. Me and the band, we agreed to stay away from everybody and just quarantine together and work on music and different stuff. So, which has kept me sane. So that's been a nice thing.
Yeah, and with a lack of normal that's going around, at least what you can do can kind of play to what is normal. And it's kind of funny with my mom. I'd always said this, if my mom ever got on Facebook or on Twitter or anything like that, social media alongside me, that's probably the day where I'm going to get off both of those. So I'll be done.
No, there's nothing worse than I'll post something. My mom will hit me up and she'll be like, I don't know if that's the most appropriate thing, Clayton. And I'm like, dang it, why are you on social media?
See, I know my mom says, people are sending me Facebook messages all the time and, they're asking me to get on. And I'm going, yeah, they don't know what they're talking about. Don't do it. So just stay where you are.
That's right. You don't need that stuff, Mom.
Yes, exactly. And I'm selfish. Selfishly, I don't need that stuff. Is the reason why she doesn't need that stuff, and I think we're all better for that. Clayton Anderson joins us. All right. Well, tell us a little bit about what you're doing to benefit restaurants, bars and grills that we know a great deal. We have personal relationships with so many around here within the state. And you're helping them, I think, greatly. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, a lot of people have lost their job. The service industry's taken it really hard on the chin. I mean, luckily the restaurants are still able to be open for carry out and stuff like that. But your servers, your bartenders are completely out of work, and I feel that as a musician. We've lost a lot of our gigs, but We've been doing some live streams that have been really successful, and then we were supposed to do a Bud Light dive bar tour all throughout the Midwest, and most of it was supposed to happen starting right when this coronavirus hit, and it was going to wrap up in May. So we all those dates were lost. So Bud Light, we kind of talked back and forth. I was like, what can we do? We've really made a big effort to do some really, really great quality live streams, so good sound, good audio, good video. How could we maybe do this and help other people out, try to create a community around it? And they came back with a great idea, and the pavilion and some folks here in Indy and in the industry said, hey, let's do like a real full band live show and film it and see if we can get some people who are capable and able, who have a little extra funds in their pocket right now to donate. And Anheuser-Busch and Zinc distributors are going to match up to $10,000 of what we make. So that could really help a lot of people out right now. I mean, shoot, $100 here, $50 there. That's a big deal right now. That can really help somebody.
Yeah, and shout out to Zinc too. I mean, Jim Jr. and the gang are the absolute best over there. That is so good to hear. So good to hear.
Yeah, and I'd miss it. It's crazy. This is fun for us. I mean, it's going to be really weird because we're going to be playing to an empty big room that usually fits about 3,000 people, but we're excited because we've been getting, we know everybody at home. Hopefully we'll tune in and watch this and enjoy it, and we can maybe bring some I don't know, something different than the Tiger King to them, to watch. Night.
I haven't watched that yet, and I've said this is the reason why. I mean, listen, I grew up kind of without tigers, but that was like normal, so I don't think I need to watch it. I think I'm all right. I mean, I know.
I know people down there, they're like, ain't this show so crazy? And I'm just like, Not really, man. I lived some of that in Lawrence County.
Like a Thursday night in Jasonville right there for me, man. Come on.
I thought I knew some of those people on that show for a second. Oh, but I love it, man. It's crazier than Jerry Springer.
I haven't watched my wife has been trying to, to watch it. Hey, you'll love it. And I can't believe you're not watching it. And it's going to give you some content. And I go, man, I just don't feel it. I'm not feeling it right now. So I haven't done it. Not watched a second of it yet. Not yet.
Yeah. Well, so. you're not missing out. It's keeping you from being stupider. You know,
Clayton Anderson with us. All right, tell the folks out there if they don't know how this is going to work. Is this tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow night, Thursday night, 6 p.m. Tomorrow night at 6 p.m. we will be going live on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and it's going to be fun. We're actually going to even do it in virtual reality, which I'm pumped about. Never did anything like that. So if you have like an Oculus, or it's going to be through YouTube, so you can just use your smartphone and do it that way. If you have you can build you can build like a cardboard thing and it works. It'll be I'm excited. It's going to be fun. And then that's going to go down at 6:00 and it'll be live, and it's going to be different than our regular streaming where we're more interactive, taking requests. This is just sit back, crack open a Bud Light, Bud Seltzer, and enjoy the show and just have a nice Thirsty Thursday.
Yeah, why not? I mean, why not, too? And it helps everybody. I think this is a spectacular idea. So basically, most forums of social media is where they can find you, Clayton?
Yeah, pretty much everywhere except Twitter. Will be Facebook, at Clayton Anderson Official. Instagram and Twitter, although it's not going to be on Twitter, it's at Clayton Anderson. And, if you have – I know everybody's hurting out there right now, but if some people have a little extra spare change to spare, then I'm sure the service industry folks would greatly appreciate the donations, and because I have some friends and they're nervous, it's crazy time.
And what we do, what I do, what you do, we get to know a lot of these folks that are in the service industry like this, and you get to be really good friends with them. And I saw this coming. I was actually at this Slippery Noodle when this really all kind of started to take shape. I think actually a day after the Rudy Gobert thing with the Jazz happened in OKC, and then you could see this really coming, and we've not been anywhere near the same since. And this is a lot of people taking it hard. This is an outstanding idea from you. It really is.
Oh, well, it took a whole big group of us, the Pavilion at Pan Am people, those Sabronica and Jason Jenkins. And
shout out to Sabronica. We like her, too.
Yeah, she is incredible. She is a queen. But I think and everybody over at Zinc that we've been working with, and everybody at AB and the corporate offices, everybody's just really rallied around this, and hopefully it'll go good. And heck, maybe, I don't know, maybe we can get crazy amount of views. Share it with share it with everybody out there if you're listening right now tomorrow, because that's really going to help get the word out and help the cause, and maybe we can do some more of them. And who knows, keep taking care of each other. That's what it's all about.
How long you plan on playing?
I think the set's about an hour. So, I'm known to go over, but without the crowd, I don't know. Who knows? I'm excited. I'm nervous. I'm really, really nervous to see how this goes.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. Is it this kind of feel like taping a video maybe a little bit to you?
A little bit, but the video, if you mess it up, you can just stop and start over. This thing's like, okay, here we go. But I'm excited. I'd love to shout out the guys, Andrew Torbenson and Evan DeStefano have been really, really working hard. We've got like 5 different camera angles that we're going to be cutting this thing on, and so I'm really pumped. We're really, really, really trying to do it well, and the guys in the band, Seth Jenkins and Steve Pierce and Nico Albanese and our buddy Scott Wilson, who's going to mix this thing. It takes like a kind of a thing. It takes a little army to do it, and so hopefully tune in tomorrow at 6 p.m. It might be a train wreck. I don't know.
6 p.m. tomorrow. You can find it on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, wherever you digest your social media, I guess. And it's with Clayton Anderson and Zink, our friends at Bud and Jim Jr. and the gang, which are awesome, helping raise money for the folks locally in the service industry around here. That's your restaurants, your bars and grills that are suffering right now for sure.
Yeah, you can. There's links out there if you want to donate. It's Fundly /Indie Bars, and if Fundly is FUNDLY.com/Indie Bars. And if you need assistance, if you're struggling right now and you're in the service industry, you can reach out at. Hold on, give me 2 seconds. I haven't memorized that one yet. It is IndieBarsFund.com. IndieBarsFund.com.
IndieBarsFund.com is where you go.
I know you have a lot of service industry listeners.
Yes.
Because one of the coolest stories, I wanted to tell you this, and I meant to text you the other day. I got picked before this all went down. I got in an Uber, and a guy was a bartender at, I can't remember which restaurant, but he's like, are you that dude on JMV sometimes? I was like, yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, man, you got a lot of listeners out there, JMV. A lot of listeners.
We got good people.
Shouting me out.
We got good people. And we have good caring people, and we also have good caring people that are struggling right now. And as I've mentioned, we are all in the same gang on this. I mean, there's nothing. I mean, we're all on the same page when normally we're not. I mean, everybody's just kind of spraying different directions, different angles. I mean, we are all laser focused on what we're trying to achieve right here. And this is just another part to it, man. 6 o'clock tomorrow. We'll remind people of that and help raise money for those in the service industry around here with restaurants and bars and grill in mind. It's Clayton Anderson in concert. You can see in social media. I'll remind people tonight and obviously during the show tomorrow. And I mean, hell, Kyle and I in here will watch. We'll get out of here at about 6, and we'll make sure that everybody immediately turn over and watch you and what you guys are doing, man. Job well done. I don't have to tell you this. I know because we share this all the time, but you're a good dude, and I think everybody needs to know that, along with being an incredibly talented dude. Play something from the old school Stone Carnival for me tomorrow, would you?
Yeah, I was just singing some of that when we were messing around just a little bit ago. Oh, man, that's so funny.
Who was that little bitty guy that used to be the lead singer of Stone Carnival? He's a little bitty guy.
Kurt Mutadere.
That was Kurt Mutadere back then?
Yeah. That was Kent Mutadere's brother. Kent was a star down there for the Bedford North Lawrence High School basketball team, and Kurt just didn't get that hype.
They did some covers. Emotional Rescue and Miss You, I think, were my favorite of the covers in which they did. They did that gloriously back in the day.
Yeah, they were incredible. Actually, you know what? While you bring it up, one of the band members in that band, Jeff Day, he's been going through some stuff. So maybe everybody just send a little thought out for Stone Carnival's Jeff Day out there. Keep him in your thoughts and happiness and prayers, whatever you believe in.
They no longer perform. Accurate?
Yeah, they still do. Actually, we did a benefit for a woman's shelter last May or 2 Mays ago, I think. It was incredible. I had so much fun sitting there watching them play, and it was a blast. Yeah. They were my heroes growing up. That's how I got roped into this crazy business. I think it's all their fault.
I saw them at the Bluebird a bunch of different times, and they were always really entertaining. But it always stands out to me, Mutadere at lead doing Emotional Rescue was a pretty good cover right there. We could maybe do a little Sky Point tomorrow night to Joe Diffie as well. So,
absolutely. We've with him and Kenny Rogers. We've lost a lot in country music. I thought John Prine. I think he's starting to recover. There's just this thing has no. It doesn't care who you are. Nope. You know, that's a scary thing. It's just it's a scary, scary disease. And I think, I know it's not cool to wear a mask, but heck, I've been wearing this bandana like I'm a robber. I just can't go to, thank gosh the banks are closed. Can't go in a bank because I'd get probably shot. But you gotta, it's do it. I mean, it's all these things we have the power to do it. If you don't have to I see people out all the time and I'm just like, what the heck are you dummies doing? Just stay inside, stay away. Just, it's a real thing.
Clayton Anderson tomorrow night, concert, 6 p. You can see it in your favorite way that you get your information via social media, whether it's Facebook or YouTube or Instagram. Catch it there. And the show, beginning at 6 o'clock, is going to be for our service folks out there, restaurant, bar and grills. And quick shout to Jim Jr. and Zinc Distributing and Budweiser for doing this. Absolutely awesome. And our friend Clayton Anderson on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. We'll remind everybody of that coming up tomorrow, man. Have a great show. We'll be watching.
All right. Thanks, JMV. Love you, buddy. Take care of yourself.
Right back at you. My best of the family. Clayton Anderson, Andy Moore, Automotive Group hotline. That's a good dude, a great cause. We'll all get behind it, and I'll remind you of that coming up tomorrow. And thank you, Jim Jr. and Bud and Zink, too. You guys are awesome. Absolutely awesome. Quick one. Other side, I think Hagan's going to call in before the top of the hour. Kevin Bowen after 5. Jake Trotter, Clayton Anderson, Xavier Rhodes. Podcast 1075thefan.com. Back with you next.
It's the Fan Morning Show with Jeff and Big Joe.
Tom Allen.
There's still a lot of unknowns about how the rest of the spring and summer is going to play itself out, but we do know that it's going to be cut short. That's the challenging part, but we have to motivate our guys and make them understand how critical it is to maximize this time, because even though no one's watching right now, eventually it will get exposed to who did and who didn't take full advantage of this time.
The Fan Morning Show with Jeff and Big Joe. Weekday mornings, 7 till 10. Only on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Hey, it's JMV for LD Smith Plumbing, the absolute best in what you need for big and small plumbing situations. And also, Lance wants to remind you that they're following all CDC recommended guidelines, including wearing gloves, masks during certain repairs, and other cleaning guidelines, too. And they're monitoring their employees' health and well-being for you. 317-284-9526. The best in plumbing is LD Smith Plumbing online. That's ldsmithplumbing.com today.
Indiana is getting some of those really fast tests. From the WIBC Newsroom, I'm Chris Davis with your coronavirus update. The tests may take from 5 to 10 minutes and may change how we operate during the pandemic.
I received an email saying that we would be receiving 15 of these specific machines with additional tests to come with that.
State Health Commissioner Dr. Chris Box.
Indiana also received additional supplies from our strategic national stockpile.
The campaign announced today is called In This Together. Governor Holcomb says the idea is to really drive home how important social distancing is. A big boost of computing power that may help scientists and doctors find a cure.
We thought, well, why not with the Folding at Home project, let them use our machines to maybe come up with something that will help everybody.
Butler University computer science professor Joseph Sorensen tells Inside Indiana Business they're loaning out some computer power from the school's supercomputer. You've got another update coming up from the WIBC Newsroom. I'm Chris Davis.
When they start playing again, you'll hear it right here. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. The Ride with JMV.
I got nowhere else to go!
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Another summer day has come and gone away from Paris or Rome.
On a normal April Fool's Day, 2020, we would be in preparation to see Michael Bublé at Bankers Life Fieldhouse. Since we are far from normal right now, we are not. It has been postponed. And Chris Hagan of Fox 59, the sports director, friend of the show's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I'm assuming that's why you're calling, because tonight was the night, and because we are where we are, it is not, and we wait.
Obviously, it took something monumental to prevent you from going to Michael Bublé. My generous gift to you and CNV. And a global pandemic is now your excuse to not have to go see Michael Bublé. Now you have pulled out all the stops. But, yeah, it's all jokes aside, because this is, a serious situation, and I applaud everybody for doing their part. Maybe not for the benefit of you personally, but for the benefit of others who are in situations where, they're not capable due to their age or their, conditions they already have. So, yeah, you think about how much this thing has hit. It hit us in the sports world, where we lost the Big Ten tourney, then we lose a regional, then they're postponing the 500. And then things like this that you look forward to, social events, and you forget how much interaction you have with people on a daily basis. It's in particular you. I think about all those Fridays we've spent out, shaking hands and seeing folks, and it's really just kind of brought everything to a screeching halt. And unfortunately tonight, there will be no Buble.
It's Chris Hagan of Fox 59. He is on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. We're all obviously adjusting the way that we live right now by virtue of trying to handle this and try to remain as safe and healthy as possible. And clearly, you guys in TV, I mean, you got some radical adjustments that have been made on your side of things, haven't you?
Yeah, we try to keep apart. And like I've been, since there are no late-breaking highlights to edit, I've been taping my sports, at like 3:30 or so, taping sports at 9 o'clock, just to, because we want to continue to try to be there for people. Obviously, the news people, they're going above and beyond, breaking down the information that we need to get to people. But still, you'd like to think there's something that sports people like you and me, we can bring to the table. And I think sports has always been an escape for folks from their daily lives, and it kind of unifies people. So it's been fun to kind of get in the Wayback Machine and say, on this date in history, and we talked about, I don't know if you saw it, we had the 25-year anniversary of Michael Jordan's returning to hoops, and it was here in Indy, and I dug out an old package they did that night on David Benner and what his night was like, trying to get all those credentials put together. And it was funny looking at, that was Benner's first year as media relations guy for the Pacers, and his first year in, they throw this at him.
Yeah.
And today, for example, do you know what happened 18 years ago tonight?
18 years ago tonight. Well, that was no, it wasn't not the national, not IU and Maryland, right? That's a couple of days ago. Was it?
It was 18 years ago tonight.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought for some reason that was a couple of days ago, that anniversary. But yeah, 18 years ago tonight, and it's kind of funny. I mean, IU fans get disappointed about the Maryland game, but I mean, that whole Duke game is still in that regional semifinal, arguably one of the best games, but to many, considering what the level of basketball has been in Bloomington since that point in time, probably to some of the younger generation and the younger era, the greatest outside of that Kentucky game of a few years ago in Bloomington.
You say it's, to me and you, a couple of old guys, it seems like just yesterday, but
right.
18 years ago. They haven't played in the Final Four in 18 years.
Yep.
And so, yeah, and what was the gap between that from 2002 to what was it? Was it 92? Was that a 10-year gap?
Yeah, 92 to 2002 up until that point, yeah. So
you went once, you skipped a decade, and then now you've gone 18 years. And I'm no mathematician like Brian Williams, but what is that? We're looking at 28 years. They've been to one Final Four in the last 28 years. Right?
Crazy to think about, because there was a point in the early to mid 90s where you thought, nope, that's never going to happen like that. And it's been a while. It has.
What would you say that Michigan State has replaced IU as the kind of Big Ten brand name, big name coach? Then they're always kind of in that. You always expect them to be in the Sweet 16 or Final Four. That's Michigan State now, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, at least Michigan State had Magic and the Judd Heathcote era to go on. Up until that point where they took off, because early stages of Izzo wasn't anything to write home about either, and then they finally took off with Izzo. But the thing that stands out to me the most is the rise of Wisconsin. Because they're, basketball-wise especially, they were a laughingstock back in the day. I mean, it was just like, something you would count on as a W on your schedule, which, the rise and, the leveling off and the continued level of excellence for the Wisconsin program, especially since Bo Ryan, is something I would have never thought would take place in basketball.
And that happened in football as well. Yeah. Wisconsin was the laughingstock in football, and they've really become a quality program when you think about the Big Ten. But you talk about that IU 2002. I covered them the whole way. I was with them when they went out to Sacramento and then Lexington and then down in Atlanta. And you think about that team and some of the characters on that team. You talk about, even though they were in college, there were some great sound bites. We tweeted out the other night some sound bites from when they had beaten Kentucky. And it's a young Dane Fife, just great on the microphone then, and still great to follow on Twitter now. It's a good time to have some of those where are they now things,
and you remember these like a short span of this person's life when they're wearing the colors you root for, and then you realize, oh yeah, they've got a whole life to lead after that.
Yeah, and you had a good group of hard-working dudes, and then you had Jeffries, who was incredibly talented. And I thought Jeff Newton might have been the key to all of it. As kind of a stretch four, even way back then. He was just such a versatile guy, and certainly turned into that. But I mean, Coverdale and Fife and Jared Odell in the second half to start the second half of that Duke game was basically as essential as any other aspect as to why they won that game.
Yeah, that was. You think about that to get to the Final Four, and we had talked about this, you and I, off the air, about sometimes you catch breaks. And they beat IU was a 5 seed, and they started off in Sacramento beating a 12 seed, and then they were supposed to be playing a good USC team in Sacramento, but they got upset by UNC was that Ashboro?
No, it was UNC Wilmington with Brett Blizzard, and they upset Brett Blizzard. They upset USC, and USC had Jeff Trepanier was really good left-handed guard at the time. Sam Clancy was a big man that was really good, and they kind of floundered, and Brett Blizzard took him to task, and that's who IU had in the second round. They didn't have to get USC.
And then after they beat Duke by playing one incredible half of basketball because they're down 13 at the break, then they get perennial power Kent State to go to the Final Four.
But Kent State had knocked off Pittsburgh. Kent State was legit back then, though, man.
But that's a 10 seed. Then talking about seeds, IU beat a 10, a 12, and a 13, in addition to beating the number 1, which is, that was the best team in the country by far. But they played one good half against the 1 seed, and then the other teams they beat were a 12, a 13, and a 10. That's one of the most unusual runs to the Final Four. But you know what? You play the teams that get there, and then sometimes you catch a break because you're not playing that team that was probably better than the team you got, but on that one given night, they didn't get it done.
And you get to beat Kelvin Sampson's ass, which was great.
Your buddy, yeah.
I didn't like him
back then. I really don't like him.
Oh yeah, he was kind of an ass kiss back then, though. I mean, I remember when they played Purdue and he was the head coach at Oklahoma. Man, he called the other show and I'm nice guy, this, and everybody's great, and I love the state of Indiana. And then he got here and he was the biggest jackstick ever. I mean, I could not wait not to have to talk to him. He sucked.
The first time I talked to him one-on-one, you can just read people. I'm like, this guy's a jackass. Hey, before I let you go, before you let me go, can you remember the last hand that you shook? Who was the last person's hand you shook?
Oh, man, I do. I think I feel bad. I mean, here's why I did it, because it's so normal for me. I just kind of forgot not to do it. And it was a dude named Derek Martin that I know, and our kids had been friends that I saw out. And it was just kind of just a response. I do whatever I do, and I go, I forgot to. It was done before I remembered to elbow or to whatever. So yeah.
Mine was I was at a Trader's Mill Bar and Grill over here near my house, and a guy and his girlfriend walked over as they were leaving. They came over and said, "Hey, are you Chris Hagan?" Yada yada yada. And I said, "Yeah." And so he reached his hand out, and so I shook his hand, and he said, "This is my girlfriend," and I shook her hand. And even when I was doing it, I was like, "Oh, am I supposed to be doing this?" But then I didn't want to be like,
"Yeah,
oh, I met that Hagan guy, and he was too good to shake my hand."
And see, there's no shame, no more blame in described as jackassery. I mean, now you just got to say, hey, if you don't get this by now, what the hell is your problem? So
we can all be Howie Mandel. He was ahead of the game on this one.
Boy, he was, wasn't he? I mean, guys like Jerry Seinfeld, who was a germaphobe as well. Yeah, no question.
Well, I'll leave you with this. JMV, you and I, at some point before our lives end, we will see Michael Bublé.
We will.
It will happen. And that will be a celebration of life and a celebration of getting through this craziness. Because, of course, of all the things to prevent you, I've been trying to get you to accept Bublé for probably a decade. And this is what prevents it from happening. But, I want to keep the message out there. I don't want to sound hokey or whatever, but, supporting all the people that are doing what they can. And I heard Clayton on with you earlier, and you really feel for folks that they've lost their job or been furloughed. My brother's been furloughed down in Alabama, and you feel for folks, and you want to try to do as much as you can. And hopefully even an idiot like you can entertain some folks and give them something else to think about for a while.
No. I mean, my stupidity rises to the occasion in times like these. So
You're not the idiot we need. You're the idiot we deserve.
I'm the idiot on that wall. I'm the idiot you need on that wall right now. Hey, before I go, I got to go quick here, but you got to take over. All ladies, all requests, Saturday night party on B1057. Give me your request. If not, call in, but give me your request right now.
I want Send Me an Angel by Real Life.
Oh, yeah, from Rad. From the soundtrack of Rad, it's Chris Hagan with Send Me an Angel from Real Life. Chris Hagan, Andy Moore, Automotive Group Hotline. Thank you for calling in, brother.
I will see you, man.
Stay safe. Send Me an Angel, Real Life, Chris Hagan. Quick break. We'll come back. Kevin Bowen joins us. Other side next.
Sports with Dan Dockett.
Tucker Barnhart, who's the best baseball player you have ever played against?
Mike Trout, and it's not even close. One of the scouting databases we use gives you hot-cold zones, and literally there is only one or two very small spots on Mike Trout's plan that you can go to, and if you don't, he kills everything else. I feel like he could play linebacker in the NFL. I feel like he could do just about whatever he wants.
Dan Dockett, weekdays, noon till 3 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
We Grow Hair Indy has helped thousands of men and women grow their hair back. Hey, it's JMV, and I'm one of those clients, and amazed with my results. And this year, give yourself or someone you care about the gift of hair and call my friends at We Grow Hair Indy, 888-724-5129. I had the multi-unit hair grafting. It's PAI's trademark procedure. So did my friend Rick DeMulling, former professional football player. PAI is only one of 2 clinics in the entire United States to offer this and the Artist Robotic FUE. Listen to what the artist did for Nick Angeloff.
I am a young single guy, so having a full hairline does play a great part in going out and presenting myself well.
Check out my results, WeGrowHairIndy.com. What are you waiting for? Find out why you're losing your hair and which procedure will restore your hair. Call for a free evaluation, 888-724-5129. That's 888-724-5129. This year, grow your hair back.
Hey, these are no ordinary times, and Firehouse Subs is no ordinary sub shop. They're neighborhood restaurants, locally owned and operated, and still open. Enjoy your favorite subs from Firehouse no matter where you're at. Order for pickup on their website or app. Call ahead, order carry out at the restaurant, or get it delivered. Every hot sub is made to order with premium meats and cheeses, box bagged for your convenience, whether you're taking a break from a conference call or getting ready for mealtime. Firehouse Subs is still here for you. Visit firehousesubs.com to order, pickup, or delivery. Carry out and delivery availability may differ.
This is Indy Sports Center. WFNI, WIBC, HD2, W298BB, W228CX, Indianapolis.
Hey, join me tomorrow, Frank Isola from ESPN, also Mike Wells, as we continue to talk Colts. What sport is going to start first? I think it's going to be golf. Do you think we'll have an NBA season?
The Ride with JMV.
I am in the parking lot right now, hammering a bacon, egg, and cheese, hold the cheese, in preparation to go deep with 4 hits and put on a laser show to the likes of which you have never witnessed in your entire life.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All right, quick shout out. Fox Sports Indiana's got a replay of the 12-11-19 Pacers rally in the fourth quarter to beat the Celtics later on tonight, which is good. Fox Sports Indiana with Denary and Quinn and JJ as a part of that should be outstanding. You just heard me play Toto as a re-entry and Rosanna on this date in 1982, a Yacht Rock staple. We didn't know it at the time, but a Yacht Rock staple was released, and that is Rosanna. That it depends on the story that you hear, may or may not be about Rosanna Arquette, but I believe I've heard the latest, and it is at some point about Rosanna Arquette. Andy Moore, Automotive Group Hotline. Kevin Bowen, 1075thefan.com. He joins us. So I was talking to Xavier Rhodes last hour, and he goes, hey, I've not played zone before, but I can't wait to give it a try. Did Xavier Rhodes signing with this one-year deal make sense to you?
A little bit. I probably would have kept Pierre Desir, especially at this point where it looks like the Colts aren't going to make any big marquee last-minute free agent move. When they cut Desir, I'm thinking to myself, they're trying to create some more cap space to make one more splash. Well, they haven't really made that splash. So I would have kept Desir and probably signed Xavier Rhodes and said, all right, couple 29-year-olds that have struggled the past, Desir this past season, Rhodes the past 2 seasons. Let those two kind of play it out to be that longer outside corner that can potentially travel and shadow some guys. What does make sense to me about Rhodes, and I'm always a fan of kicking the tires on former first-round picks in free agency, is the fact that you have the familiarity. I'm sure he talked about it.
He did.
With you of Jonathan Gannon being the cornerbacks coach and being an assistant and really being a player's coach, and Alan Williams, the safeties coach here in Indianapolis, he was the defensive coordinator when Rhodes was drafted in Minnesota as well. And Rhodes was the number 1 pick, number 1 first-round pick. So clearly this coaching staff feels like they can get him back to the level that he was playing at when they were there, especially Gannon in Minnesota. And I just feel like the Colts believe there's a higher ceiling with Rhodes than there was with Pierre Desir. Pierre Desir is probably more of the steady guy. There's probably a little bit of a lower floor with a guy like Xavier Rhodes, but there is that higher ceiling, and we'll see if they can tap into that because it's a critical position. And while Kenny Moore is your best corner, he's your best corner, particularly at that nickel slot. That's really where you want him to play. You want to have more of that, number 1 outside corner guy. And Rock, you've seen Marvell Tell had some moments as rookies, but they also had some other bad moments. And so Xavier Rhodes is going to have a great opportunity here in Indianapolis.
What's funny about this, and Kevin Bowens on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, is all that we're talking about right now regarding the secondary, and all we have been talking about, and I'm sure we will talk about regarding the quarterback position coming up here in just a bit. All this is predicated on what they have put the most stock into, and that is defensive line up front, offensive line up front. If that doesn't work according to plan and how they visualize it, then none of this is going to work.
No, and that goes back to the DeForest Buckner trade of that guy's got to be an all-pro. He has to be an all-pro for you, and he's got to impact the game at one of the highest levels of any defensive tackle in the NFL. And Frank Reich talked about it yesterday about, he remembers about a decade ago, Tony Dungy, after he had left the Colts, in 2008, he came back for a coaching clinic when Jim Caldwell was the head coach, and with the entire staff, and that was when Frank was quarterback's coach, he mentioned how important the 3 technique was for this defense. And clearly it matters a whole lot to Chris Ballard. He was not happy at all with the defensive tackle play last season. In season, he was not. They made several roster moves there. And obviously we've seen him address that in a extremely significant manner. I think we talked about this a few weeks ago, John, but I think it's worth mentioning again. You do not see teams trade top 15 overall picks really at all in the NFL, especially for defensive tackles. So it is a very rare move. Now, having said that, you are getting a potentially a rare player if Buckner can live up to this trajectory that he's kind of trending towards of being an all-pro, Pro Bowl guy and is only 26 years old. But this is the philosophy that Chris Ballard is all in on. The number 6 overall pick went to a guard. Now the number 13 overall pick goes for an established defensive tackle. It's not what you see typically, but again, this is what Ballard is really steadfast about, and obviously we're going to see over the next couple of years if this pays off.
I wish you'd be a little bit more steadfast about the wide receiver position, but we'll get into that in just a second. Before I close it out along this defense, I talked to Kamoka Toure back right before the Super Bowl. And, obviously disappointed because he was at the high point. I mean, his signature game was that Kansas City game where he was also injured and done for the season. We haven't talked a lot about him since then. Do you feel that maybe this coaching staff defensively feel that he is going to take this game, especially chasing around the opposition's quarterback, to a different level, and that's something they're counting on right now? Do you feel that at all?
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, I think you're spot on there. Chris Ballard especially has been really, really high on him. And, for a handful of games at the start of last season, he showed several flashes of having that dominant speed trait. And that is clearly his strongest attribute. And it's what separates him really from just about any other pass rusher on this team. And I guess mainly I'm referring to Justin Houston and what you had last year with Jabal Sheard. And so Toure is that unique bit of an edge rusher. He's not very big, or I should say he really doesn't have a lot of three-down presence. He's not going to be a Jabal Sheard that's going to throw him out there first, second, third down and play like that. But again, he can be a lot more dominant on third down than maybe a guy like Sheard offered you. So to me, John, him and Paris Campbell, they can raise the ceiling of this season, maybe more so than any other player that aren't just kind of frontline guys that you typically think about right now. But if Toure all of a sudden, Buckner gets all the attention inside and is getting doubled and people are worried about that, running back's coming up to offer some help in the interior, well, then if Toure is back healthy, which is still a big question, that was a significant ankle injury that he suffered back in October, maybe he can be a double-digit sack guy. And all of a sudden, if he turns into that for the next X amount of years, that gives this defense an edge presence that they haven't had since Robert Mathis on a consistent basis. So Toure is probably a guy that we don't talk about enough, but certainly he is such an important factor to this defense taking necessary strides forward.
All right. I'm assuming this is April Fool's Day working here, right? So I follow at Covers.
I hate April Fools.
It sucks. And I mean, just why can't people just take a break on this crap today? I'm assuming I just got this at Covers. Von Miller has been released by the Broncos. I mean, I don't see this anywhere else. See, that makes me want to unfollow. I hate April Fool's Day jackassery, especially right now. It's so stupid. So they tell some former stories, whatever. But, I mean, otherwise, it's just lame as hell.
Get a life.
Lame it is. Hey, Kevin Bowen joins us. All right, I mentioned this at wide receiver. Are you not fully surprised, because nobody is, with the thought process with Chris in mind here, but are you mildly surprised that the wide receiver position still looks the way that it does where we are in free agency?
I am. And like you said, with Chris Ballard, we shouldn't be too surprised because he just doesn't look at wideout like, you or I think a lot of people look at it. But I would say where I am even more surprised, John, comes from what Phillip Rivers, I guess, needs at quarterback. I've started to look into this a little bit more, and I'm going to write something on it here later before the draft. If you look at Phillip Rivers' top receiver targets that he had in San Diego or LA, all of them are over 6'2", and a lot of them are more so in the 6'4", 6'5" range. Keenan Allen 6'2" and over 200 pounds, but Mike Williams, Tyrell Williams, even going back to a guy like Vincent Jackson or Malcolm Floyd. These are some big body wideouts. And you look at the Colts' makeup right now at the receiver position, Zach Pascal. That's your biggest wideout at 6'2". And so I felt like when they made the Rivers move, that thinking in my mind was like, all right, Devin Funchess, does that return happen? And if not, I think, again, having that bigger body wide out, because Rivers is going to take chances. He's going to throw the ball up, and having more of kind of that 50-50 sort of wide out seems to make a lot of sense to me. And Chris has been very honest, too, in saying that, college wideouts immediately and offering you something from day one is no lock. And
you recognized that from a year ago, right? I mean, shouldn't you have the recognition from just last year to know that that's true?
And again, Campbell is probably more injury related, and certainly he wasn't referencing directly that. But again, you have that evidence from last season, and there were some other guys that hit immediately, but still, that's just a lot of pressure to put on that position, because I really think for Rivers to be whatever the staff thinks he needs to be at or is capable of being at, I just think you need some bigger body types at that wideout spot.
Do you look at Devin Funchess as absolutely not entertaining any thought of coming back, or the Colts absolutely not entertaining any thought of wanting him back? Because I mean, they were middle of the road Switzerland, at least Chris was, regarding Devin Funchess and 3 quarters and this. And it was, we kind of always looked at it as, man, how long is it going to take this dude to get back? And he never did get back. Do you think that was a mutual, we don't want to be a part of this any longer decision?
I mean, I don't think it was like Eric Ebron bad and what the Colts would publicly state. I actually think there was some actual interest or thought of trying to bring back Devin Funchess. And we always said this leading into free agency, this is a two-way street. And if you're Devin Funchess, a fresh start with a Hall of Fame quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, when you look at Green Bay's depth chart, yes, Devontae Adams is clearly their number one and is a great wideout. But after that, it's a lot of young, unproven guys, and that's a group that just struggled, I think, at times last year in Green Bay. So that seems to be a pretty good fit for him on a 1-year prove-it deal. So, I don't think it was like the Colts just are on their knees saying, please come back to Funchess or like it was that drastic. But I think there was some interest about trying to get him to come back for the reasons that I just mentioned. Yeah. But again, Funchess, I don't think he was in love of the quarterback situation prior to Phillip Rivers. And again, playing with Aaron Rodgers is pretty darn attractive for a guy that is his age and still looking to sign that big deal.
Kevin Bowen, 1075thefan.com is on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So you guys were all Zooming yesterday with Frank Reich, and he had mentioned that maybe 5 to 7 plays for Jacoby Brissett at quarterback per game next year. Honestly, he was just trying to be the pro player, making everybody happy guy with this. I mean, come on.
When I first heard it, John, I felt like I was listening to a college football head coach that had recruited the 5-star freshman, and the 5-star freshman wasn't going to win the starting job. And he was just saying that to simply hope that the 5-star freshman's dad wouldn't call him and be mad about it. Like, he was just trying to keep everyone happy, like dangling this little carrot of like, hey, we're going to have this package for him, and it's going to be whatever, like you said, 5 to 7 plays. And I mean, I've thought about this a lot over the last 24 hours, and I know this just comes off in such a bad way about Jacoby Brissett, but like, what is that unique trait, that unique individual element that when Jacoby Brissett walks onto a football field, the opposing defense is like, oh God, we've got to change our entire game plan? Because that's what you do with these gadget, Taysom Hill for 5 plays, or what Tennessee tried to do with Marcus Mariota in the postseason. Like, it's okay, Mariota is a dual threat guy, and really it's mainly making plays with their legs. And we've watched enough of Jacoby Brissett. You can look at his combine numbers when he came out. By every metric, and I think back to that 4th down play in Tennessee in 2017, when he tried to beat Wesley Woodyard to the sticks, and just a huge play in that game, and just couldn't do it. He is not an athletic quarterback in terms of open field making guys miss. Does he shed, pass rushers? Sure, but that's unscripted stuff. That's not like designed read option plays. Frank was really adamant that, they are, again, elements of like, okay, if you look at our offense, we were really, really good in certain things last year with Jacoby under center, and they were short yardage, red zone, 4th down plays. But again, the one thing that Brissett would bring outside of like QB sneaks, I don't really know what that would be. So again, I know that comes off and just.
Well, he's not going to jump into the. You don't think he's going to jump into the Wildcat?
I just, again, like Jacoby Brissett in the open field, I mean, maybe he's lowering his shoulder and can get you a yard or two, but
listen,
seem, John, I love innovative stuff. I love creativity, and I think Frank Reich has done a wonderful job at that. But I've seen Andrew Luck line up at receiver, and I've seen Quentin Nelson line up at fullback, and we've seen both of those things did not go well at all. So it's kind of like, what are you getting at here? And I'm very curious, and who knows, maybe we'll find out in the fall, but there's nothing to me that's crystal clear of like, oh yeah, this is where Jacoby Brissett would, go on the field for 5 or 6 plays a game and help you out.
This is where nice guy Frank, I think, does folks a disservice. And here's why. I mean, last year, going back to everything's okay with Vinatieri. And clearly everything wasn't okay with Vinatieri. Going back to last year, Jacoby Brissett coming back from injury. He's okay. And then Nick Sirianni saying after the season, no, he wasn't okay. He was playing with an injury. And now this, because you have a lot of folks out there that are in disagreement about this. And you're trying to sell the folks on Phillip Rivers at 38, $25 million, and raising the bar on what we saw from the 7-9 team last year for the majority of the season that was led by Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. And I think that does this a disservice, much as it did Vinatieri and Jacoby from a year ago with Frank trying to play the super pro player nice guy card.
Yeah, and I think that's really fair, and I'm probably getting the same questions that you are. People do have these concerns of, like, is he playing favorites to a degree? Does he get emotionally attached to Adam Vinatieri and the longevity and the story? And then with Jacoby Brissett, here's the former backup quarterback who, is kind of in a way like Frank Reich was maybe in Buffalo as well. Those are fair questions to ask. They would have been extremely alarming to me had they stuck with Jacoby Brissett here in 2020. That would have been true red flag. You've heard my feelings. I think your listeners know full well what I thought of the Adam Vinatieri thing. I thought it was the wrong decision. And
and then you played it off as if nothing was wrong the entire time, and clearly it was. And I think that takes some credibility and belief away from Frank. I do. Whenever people hear Frank, it's like, all right, he's trying to play the role of Mr. Nice Guy and being wishy-washy. And you just come down to you don't believe a lot of what he says after this happens a number of times.
I've always wondered what the locker room thought of the Vinatieri thing. True serum in that locker room of that guy is just totally failing at his job. And look, injury was a factor in it, but if a guy is banged up and is totally underperforming at his job at another position, that guy's not going to play. And the fact that there were no changes to that unit and they were so steadfast and almost believing that like this 5, 10, 15-year history of a player just readily applies to what Adam Vinatieri is at the age of 46, and in 2019, that just didn't add up to me. And when you preach so much about accountability and you don't act upon it, I think that sends a bad message. But again,
and all you had to do was say this. They signed a 38-year-old for $25 million to replace as a starter the guy that they described as a top 20 quarterback in the NFL, going into last season after Luck decided to step away. So, I mean, with that alone, you tell everybody how you feel. It just kind of seems like that. You get some patronizing statements that's going on that are completely unnecessary from the head coach.
Yeah, and again, last year at the time, I was like, what? No, why are you even saying the top 20 quarterback stuff? It's just like it just didn't seem to make sense to me at all. But I think you separate the Brissett and Vinatieri things just a little bit differently in that if they would have stuck with Brissett this season, to me, that would have been the wrong decision and would have been more like the Vinatieri thing of you fall in love with the guy, you have this huge belief in him, you're not ready to kind of admit that you were wrong. I think that's something that the previous regime with Ryan Grigson struggled with. You have to admit when you're wrong and be ready to move on from Trent Richardson, Bjorn Werner, whoever else you want to throw into that group. The fact that they – through their actions, Jacoby Brissett as your backup is perfectly fine, more than fine. It's one of the better backup situations you're going to have. But the fact that they admitted that, okay, he should not be the starter in 2020, we feel like we can upgrade at that spot, they made the right call there. So I don't think it's as glaring as the Vinatieri thing that I think cost them potentially a playoff spot or at least a couple of more wins last season.
It cost Jacoby a starting job, too. I mean, it cost him his starting job. It's just, man, the connection to all this, Kev, is really interesting if you do sit down and take a little bit of time to think about it. I mean, all the things that lead us to where we are, and the most recent was Anthony Costanzo, because none of this happens, right? None of it happens at all if he does not decide to come back. And then we're in a completely different position where you have a quarterback that, I'm going to assume right now is still Jacoby Brissett, and you're searching for a left. It's just weird how things have transpired over the past year and a half.
Yeah, certainly. And I know they talked about the DeForest Buckner trade really right after the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But still, if Costanzo says no to you,
there's no way. They can say that all they want. No way. None. None.
And also, do you go after Rivers then?
No.
Having a statue back there. No. That is the one thing. I guess if you're feeling crazy, you want to put Jacoby out there for 5 or 7 plays. If your offensive line's going to break down, maybe he's your guy you want out there. But still, it's just.
Hey, Kev, if I were a jackass, which sometimes I am, I could take what Frank said yesterday, and I could say, oh, well, you're still not completely off the Jacoby train. You have in the past, been the positions coach and the OC for Phillip Rivers, but you still have that belief. So, all right. So who is in total belief here? I mean, who absolutely positively is handing over the reins here to a 38-year-old quarterback, paying him $25 million? Is it Frank? Is it Chris? Is it Jim? It is weird. When I heard that yesterday, I thought, man, just say, this is our guy. We feel confident that Jacoby, with the backup, he's not happy. We all understand that, and just move on without the 5 to 7 play stuff.
And, I know some people, John, that have asked me, should we question their evaluations at quarterback? And this is, I would say, more so on Chris with Scott Tolzien in 2017. And then now over the past couple of years, it's Jacoby leading into Rivers of, okay, Tolzien was a total dumpster fire. Again, that's more on Chris. Then Brissett, you're saying he's a top 20 quarterback. Clearly he was not. Now Rivers, we'll see what happens here. Now, ultimately, they will get another say at quarterback, and that will be whatever they do with a draft pick to try and solve that long-term answer. But, again, in much different ways with Tolzien to Brissett to Rivers, it's fair, certainly, to question the first two. We'll see what happens here on the one-year deal. But, again, ultimately, it's going to come down to that long-term answer, and we'll see what happens, 3 weeks from tomorrow, or maybe we'll have to wait till 2021.
It's funny. When I had Chris on, I just said, listen, I have a different belief of wide receiver than clearly you do. And, how many games have I won in the NFL is the first thing that's going to be said. And I understand that and respect that, and we'll take it. But you have the past couple of years that just stands out like a sore thumb of holy crap wide receiver moments. I mean, one year where it was kind of resurrected, if not lifted, because of a mid-season acquisition of a guy that wasn't playing, to Dontrell Inman, to last year, you never found anything. I mean, Zach Pascal was nice, and I like him a great deal, but you really never found anything. And the guy that you drafted was injured the entire way, and the guy that you signed as a free agent played 3 quarters. So, yeah, I mean, this has been an issue that I think should be addressed with certainly more focus than what they have. And we'll see if that holds true to this year as well.
And I think it's something, too, of it's obviously a need here in 2020, but it's a need long-term with where T.Y. Hilton is at. I mean, Paris Campbell, I think, is your only wideout under contract past next season. And one thing about Hilton, and I know that you're nearing a break here, so
that's right. This whole thing has changed our break patterns up. So just do whatever you need to do.
Kyle's just not. I'm sure
Kyle's getting buzzed by Jeff right now, going, "Tell him to shut up." But yeah, go ahead.
Kyle's flicking you off behind the monitor. With Hilton, and I've always been a huge T.Y. Hilton guy, but I think you have this question with his age right now of where does he fall in kind of the tiers of wideouts? We've had the long debate of, is he a true number one wideout? If you look at his numbers with Andrew Luck at quarterback, he's a top 10 wideout without question in the NFL. You could even make an argument that he's a little bit higher than that. But when Luck has not been under center, he has been, nowhere near a top 10 wideout. Now, Phillip Rivers is probably better than anyone else that's been throwing T.Y. the ball, non-luck division in his career. But still, that is a question of like, okay, if T.Y. Hilton is whatever in the 15 to 20 range of a wideout, now your number one receiver isn't that high level Pro Bowl, All-Pro number one wideout. Well, when you already have questions about your number two and number three, you really need that number one to be, DeAndre Hopkins, Julio Jones, whoever.
Yeah.
And so I think that's just a question you have to have as well of like, you don't have that it's not like you've got Quentin Nelson or Darius Leonard at linebacker, and then, okay, he can cover up a lot of your other linebacker issues or worries or something like that. You don't necessarily have that anymore with T.Y. Hilton and the quarterback situation. That's a fair question to have as he tries to get on the same page with Phillip Rivers.
And I hope you don't go down the same path with Reese Fountain as you did with Deion Kane last year. I mean, you're coming back from an injury. Everybody's feeling good, and you do a video on him, Colts.com, and then, hey, midseason you cut him. So hopefully that's not done the same path. Also, before I let you go, it's Kevin Bone with us. Did you just say flipped off or flicked off?
Oh boy!
You said flicked.
Flick. Yeah, I think I did.
Have you always gone with flick? Have you always gone with flick?
Flipped.
Flipped.
P. Yeah, I don't know why I said flick. Like just flicking a booger.
But and I respect you for that. You've said flick because you don't like. I think people that are well versed in flipping others off, like me, say flip. But those that don't do it very much say flick.
Yeah, because it is like a flicking motion.
And I'm an F-bomb machine, not on here, but people know that. I'm an F-bomb machine, right or wrong, but I say flip. You don't do it too much. I mean, you're more straight-laced, more responsible, even at a younger age, and you use flick. I get that. I do.
Yeah, I do. I can't tell you last time I flipped someone off. Probably in the car. Now that I think about it, probably somewhat soon. But the quarantine. I mean, I'm not flipping off my wife. I'm not flipping off anybody in the neighborhood.
No, and quarantine, man. When you find out when you're going to have kids, the quarantine is a lot different because we're about ready to have the Overlook Hotel shining happen. Blake's going to run around yelling "Red Room" here pretty soon. Red Rum.
I heard they're grounded.
Red Rum. Yeah, they're grounded. That's the worst thing to do during a pandemic is to ground your kids. Yeah.
Parenting 101 right there from the old.
I'm gonna end up locking one of them in the closet or in the cellar like they did in Evil Dead or something like that. I mean, I don't know what the hell's going to happen, but it's bad right now. It is bad. Kevin Bowen, 1075thefan.com. He flicks and does not flip people off, which may just be a generational thing too. 1075thefan.com. My man, I appreciate you more than you know. Hang in there, stay safe, be healthy.
Yep, same to you and all the listeners, John.
That's Kevin Bowen. Do you flip or flick people off? Kyle Udemar.
Flip.
Kyle flips.
Flip 'em off.
Anybody out there like Kevin Bowen flick people off? I've always flipped. Never flick. Do you flip or do you flick? Other side, we'll get back to you. Final 30, Xavier Rhodes, Jake Trotter, Clayton Anderson, and that was Kevin Bowen. 1075thefan.com. If you want to revisit these interviews, tomorrow's show will give you that a rundown and a lot more and some local business shout-outs. Coming up, 93.5 and 107.5 FM The Fan.
The Fan is taking care of local restaurants with Take Care Takeout Indy. We'll highlight Central Indiana eateries offering takeout and their specials and offers. If you'd like your restaurant to be featured, go to 1075thefan.com and click on the Take Care Takeout Indy link and we'll showcase your restaurant on our website. We'll even be talking about the great places listed. Take care of our families, neighbors, friends, and our local entrepreneurs by joining Take Care Takeout Indy. Made possible by MS Communications.
Hey, John here from my friends at Forum Credit Union. That's Kevin and the gang at Forum Credit Union, and I've said this for a number of years now. They are the absolute best to help design something for you to save, to feel comfortable financially for you and the entire family. And now we've hit on a completely different and vastly unknown level of financial uncertainty. Right now, Kevin and the gang at Forum Credit Union are just trying to help members save to reduce the stress. I mean, there's just stress around every corner. You just can't work your way out of it. I mean, me, like you, like all of you out there are dealing with it. And thanks to Kevin and the gang at Forum Credit Union, and keep this in mind too, they are there to design financial situation to help you save. They're also helping members borrow in times of need. So if you need some financial help right now, if you need a different path and you want experts to handle it, let Kevin and the gang do that with Forum Credit Union. People that you can trust. Online right now for more info, forumcu.com.
Hi, I'm Ryan Kelly with thehomeloanexpert.com. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world today, but one thing is certain. Mortgage interest rates are sitting near all-time lows, and your home has never been worth more. There has never been a better time to do a cash-out refinance. Pay off all your credit cards and stick some cash in the bank. Best part, at the Home Loan Expert office, when you refinance, no out-of-pocket cost, and you can skip 2 months of payments. Apply for your cash-out refinance today at thehomeloanexpert.com. The Home Loan Expert LLC, NMLS number 1326241.
Indianapolis Indians pitcher Cody Ponce.
You're teaching for Indiana, though. Are you having to do the video classes?
These kids enjoy people who do this job that they hope to have one day. Hence the reason why I have not asked your big behind to be a guest speaker, Joe. They think you and I are entertainers, and they realize I'm the funny one of the two of us.
If you're talking about it,
I got no freaking interest in the push-up challenge.
We're talking about it.
As we have seen, things can easily change.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. The Ride with JMV.
Don't read your email, because I'm really butthurt when you read your email.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
So we've had to ground our kids, right, during this shut-in, this shelter-in, this lock-in, this stay inside, and it's the worst thing ever.
I mean, aren't we all kind of grounded right now, though? So what's the difference between grounding your kids now and what are you taking away from them?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I mean, just not
We're
being
all
able
grounded.
to go outside and run around. And yeah, it's just bad timing. And there's like a cat that's running around and causing havoc right now, too. And
Is
cat.
the
It's like an
raccoon still around?
No,
though?
the raccoon chewed on the hot tub and then climbed up the outbuilding and then took a big dump on the back deck. So, yeah. I have yet to deal with the raccoon, but now you got a cat running around here, and the cat goes to different houses along our road and loves up and tries to get in, and it's just completely overwhelmed my kids and my wife. Oh, it's so nice. I'm going, man, just let it go. Come on. Just let it go.
You feed that thing, it's going to come back every day. We had one.
Look at these guys. Laney sits out there out front and just waits for it to come over there.
Yep, we had one that comes sit on our step and give it food, and it was there for years.
It's like we wouldn't know this because it's well before your time, but anybody out there that ever watched an episode of Leave It to Beaver that had Eddie Haskell, this is the ultimate Eddie Haskell cat. I mean, it's incredibly, love, and then you bring it in, and then it kind of causes turmoil. And it looks exactly like the cat in Pet Cemetery that died, and then they buried in the Pet Cemetery, and it came back alive, but it was evil. It looks exactly like that. It's like a dinged-up cat, too. It's got a ear that's kind of half-ass off, and this is going on. I'm going to start calling my house the Overlook here pretty soon. If you guys see me, like, next week in front of a typewriter typing all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, then you know I've reached a point right there. Gonna be it. Hey, but we're doing a B105.7. Well, you guys are shut in, right? We're gonna do an in-house party coming up on Saturday night too. I'm getting requests going on. Get Matt Taylor to fall in line, the voice of the Colts, with some requests. Got Hagan one with Real Life, sent me an Angel a little bit earlier. Thought sure he was going to go with I don't know, The Fix. Let me Saved by Zero. One thing leads to another. Red Skies, but now I got Real Life. Send me an Angel. JMV, what is your favorite Blue Oyster Cult song? Oh, I mean, the two most popular, right? Don't Fear the Reaper and Burnin'. I'm burning. Like, Burnin's an 80s song. Little known fact, Burnin' is an 80s song. And also another somewhat little known fact, Mike Damone, I think the first pair of tickets he was trying to scalp in Fast Times at Ridgemont High was for Blue Oyster Cult. I can't remember, either Blue Oyster Cult or Van Halen. I thought it was Blue Oyster Cult. True story. Yesterday, Jake Query joined us, podcast 1075thefan.com. Therefore, I owe his former partner, Derek Schultz, an opportunity to come on at some point. We have now a fake Derek at 239-1070 joining us. This fake Derek?
This is. What's going on?
You going to play the role today? You got something worked out here?
I always have something worked out here, but it just depends upon where the flow of this conversation is going to go. I will say, though, if you have a cat in your neighborhood, that I think you might actually, unless anyone in the house is allergic, why not consider taking the cat in? Have someone to hang out with you during the quarantine times.
Fake Derek, you're such a bad influence here because I'm fighting the battle right now. I'm anti, and 3 people in my home are pro. So, yes, I'm fighting. And then, see, we live out in the country, so this is actually a barn cat from what I've been told. So,
well, it's a friendly cat. I mean,
it is. It is a friendly cat. It's friendly with everybody, but it's causing turmoil in my home right now.
Well, if I may here, if I can help sway your mind, I actually took a cat in 2 Thanksgivings ago that my very dear friends found in their dumpster. And she has been a wonderful house cat, and I can't be more thankful to have her, especially during the quarantine times.
Fake Derek, that is well done. Well done out of you. Go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate that here. Not everything has to be about Jimmy's or how well Hanson is. I'm a full character.
Sure. I got you. You are.
Yeah, so we should just keep doing this until Derek calls in, right? This should motivate Derek how bad this call is.
I think I'm going to try to get him on Friday. So I think
you're going to get him on Friday.
I'm going to try maybe. Yeah, I think either Friday or some point next week. But yeah, we will do that. Fake Derek, you hang in there. Thanks for the cat advice. I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. Have a great weekend. Can't look forward to you on B105. All right.
Fake Derek, I like you. Give me some requests. John Berg writes this: flick someone off, but flip them the bird. No. It's flip both. You don't flick anybody off. You flick a booger. You flip somebody off. I'm like right now, if you guys are watching on YouTube Live, 1075 The Fan channel, I'm flipping you off. I'm picking my nose and flick. It's different. You don't flick anybody off. I mean, to me, you say flick and you completely derail the type of emotion that is necessary to just flip somebody off. I mean, you're kind of half-assing it. Yeah, I'm going to flick you off. Hey, flick you off. You know what I mean?
Because you're flipping your finger up.
I'm pissed and I'm going to flip you off. But hey, man, I'm going to flick you off. You know what I mean? Nobody's really taking that for real. Thanks, Kyle. Thank you, John Berg, for that, too. Music Mac writes this: awesome concert to Clayton Anderson and Zink. That's our friends that distribute Budweiser products around here. Jim Zink Jr. and the gang. Doing to benefit workers in the service industry tomorrow at 6 o'clock. We talked to Clayton Anderson, who's putting on that show via basically all forms of social media that you may digest on a daily, if not hourly basis. Facebook, YouTube, even some other stuff he mentioned. I had no idea what it was. And that's tomorrow night at 6. And I'll remind you again, and the proceeds to the show that you're going to see via social media go to the service industry folks, restaurants, bars, and grills around here. I think that's awesome. Really do. Russ Nordberg says, you and Hagen going to see Bublé draw some comparison to Jerry and George going to see Guys and Dolls. Yeah, listen, I've been absolutely laser focused in on Seinfeld episodes, throwbacks. So, yeah, I'm right there with you on it. I think by virtue of watching them, I think the Hamptons used to be my favorite, and it's still right up there because that was the shrinkage episode. But like the puffy shirt, all of a sudden it's kind of jumped up there too. I mean, he had Jerry and the pirate shirt going on the Today Show, and Brian Gumble was the host, and he had George as a hand model. It's all pretty good right there. That may have changed. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're flicking them like you're ball tapping. Like, yeah, Core 4 says, it's Eric Steele says, yeah, you flick them, and I don't know why you would do this. You're ball tapping. It's like, remember when Bob Siegel of Channel 13, he like swoops in and he does these sweeps week investigative reports. And if you go back a number of years, 10 plus years, he did an investigative report on Channel 13 during sweeps week on ball tapping. And in case you don't know what ball tapping is, that is, and I have no idea why anybody would ever do this, but that is where dudes in high school or elementary or junior high would run around and hit each other in the sack. Ball tapping. And how ball tapping was like sweeping. Oh, it's a fun thing, and why do they do it? It was an entire investigative reports by Bob Siegel, who's awesome at what he does on ball tapping. So yeah, Core 4 flick'em is essentially what you're talking about, ball tapping. And we all learned that via Bob Siegel years ago of Channel 13. Quick break and we'll come back. Final time. Clayton Anderson, Jake Trotter, Kevin Bowen, Xavier Rhodes, all really good today. Podcast 1075thefan.com. Tomorrow's show preview, we'll talk a little bit about Saturday when I'm in here doing live, local, all request music radio, and a lot more. This is 93.5 and 107.5 FM The Fan.
Sports with Dan Dockich.
Danny Plezak of Major League Baseball Network. You live in New York. What's it like?
Here, Dan. I mean, you're so paranoid because just across the river in Queens and Brooklyn, this pandemic is just like crippling that section of New York. What makes this area so great, there's a vibe living here that you just can't get anyplace else. It's a hustle bustle, and that has come to a grinding halt, and it's eerily quiet around here.
Dan Dockich, weekdays, noon till 3 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Here's what's happening with The Fan.
It's the pop quiz every weekday morning with Jeff and Big Joe, The Fan Morning Show. Tune in to test your sports knowledge at approximately 9:30. Having withdrawals from The Fan on your drive to and from work, we can fix that. Go to 1075thefan.com. It's your chance to win an Amazon Echo Dot. And The Fan supports local restaurants. You can do the same. Go to 1075thefan.com to check out what places are offering delivery options, because we're all in this together.
For more information, just click on 1075thefan.com.
Hey, it's John here for LD Smith Plumbing. That's LD Smith Plumbing. Lance and the team at LD Smith Plumbing, the absolute best. So where do we begin? I don't know, maybe with the phone number, 317-284-9526. The absolute best plumbers, no matter what we're talking about, large or small jobs. I mean, they are the best at doing anything. And, you know, Lance and I have had a conversation about this. During these tough times, they are following all CDC recommended guidelines, including wearing gloves and masks during certain repairs. Also, other cleaning guidelines which are necessary, and they are monitoring their employees' health on a day-to-day, minute-by-minute basis. I mean, they really are, to make sure that job number one that they do is making sure that you have that peace of mind, because that's where we all are right now. You still may need and still may have plumbing issues. Make Lance and the team that first and that final stop in making sure your plumbing needs are met. 317-284-9526, whatever you're looking at, large or small right now. It's LD Smith Plumbing, 317-284-9526. Online, Lance and the team right now. That's ldsmithplumbing.com.
Indiana is getting some of those really fast tests. From the WIBC Newsroom, I'm Chris Davis with your coronavirus update. The tests may take from 5 to 10 minutes and may change how we operate during the pandemic.
I received an email saying that we would be receiving 15 of these specific machines with additional tests to come with that.
State Health Commissioner Dr. Chris Box.
Indiana also received additional supplies from our strategic national stockpile.
The campaign announced today is called In This Together. Governor Holcomb says the idea is to really drive home how important social distancing is. A big boost of computing power that may help scientists and doctors find a cure.
We thought, well, why not with the Folding at Home project, let them use our machines to maybe come up with something that will help everybody.
Butler University computer science professor Joseph Sorensen tells Inside Indiana Business they're loaning out some computer power from the school's supercomputer. You've got another update coming up from the WIBC Newsroom. I'm Chris Davis.
A well-deserved break from your quarantine binge watching. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. The Ride with JMV.
Let me have a Diablo sandwich, a Dr. Pepper. Make it fast. I'm in a damn hurry.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Sounds like a little RATT is necessary on Saturday night. And you put an arrow through my heart. Oh, man, I had this. I had this on tape back in the day. Anybody else have Out of the Cellar by Rat? I did. I saw this from Jeff Goodman a couple of hours ago. I did not mention it, though. Bryce Drew is the new head coach. Dan Marley, Thunder Dan Marley, was fired after, 4 years, maybe 4 years plus as head coach at Grand Canyon. I remember we had him on a couple of different times. Bryce Drew has since taken over, and he added Ed Schilling, the former assistant down at IU, the notable Ed Schilling, to his staff at Grand Canyon. JMV at 1070thefan.com is the email address. JMV, I was listening to you and Hagan talk about IU in 02. I just did a quick research of some of the guys I remember from the team, and I found A.J. Moye is a basketball instructor at the Mamba Academy. Not only would it be awesome to catch up with him, and we've had A.J. on before. He has a really good interview. But you can talk about that block that he had on Carlos Boozer. Absolutely. Big moment of that game right there. A little over 5 minutes to play. And he just, he helped energize. Here's the one thing about Coverdale. Coverdale was funny when they were taking the ball out. They were taking the ball out, and Duke was trying to get it back, and Coverdale kind of walked all over the baseline when he was talking it out. That was right before the ball. I think Moye got the ball, and he started to dribble with it, and Duhon ripped it from him, and Duhon was whistled for a foul. When they were inbounding, man, Coverdale was just he was dancing all over, moonwalking all over that sideline. Well done. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that email. At JMV 1070, we're on Twitter as well. Jeff Hopkins with this. How about a shout-out, a local business shout-out? Pizza King in Elwood, Indiana. We love all Pizza Kings. Love all Pizza Kings, including the one down off of Bluff and Southport. The one on 135 in Greenwood. Pizza Kings are awesome. My guy Clay up in Anderson. Pizza King in Elwood, Indiana. Local business shout-out. As always, thank you, Jeff Hopkins. 239-1070. Our friend Daryl is up next. Daryl, how are you?
Good, John. How you doing?
Great. Go ahead.
Hey, this would be more of an anything goes segment, but everybody needs a good laugh these days. So believe it or not, there used to be a show in England called Kicked in the Sack, and the guy would run around in the gray overalls and a red wig, and he'd go around and just kick people in the sack.
And was that back during the Benny Hill era in England?
I mean, it was. If anybody wants a good laugh, just go on YouTube, Google it, whatever, and then these guys would get upset with the dude, and he goes, and they'd finally shake his hand. So that's all right. You're cool. So if anybody wants a good laugh, check it out on YouTube or Google it or whatever.
Here's what's funny about that. Being kicked in the sack actually started what we know as the reality-based television with America's Funniest Home Videos. We talked to Bob Saget about that, and he was rolling videos of guys taking line shots with the wiffle ball to the sack. I mean, they were doing that before anybody was doing that back then. Here, at least in American TV.
Yeah, this is an actual weekly show on London television.
Kicked in the sack. I don't know, Daryl. Hey, are you running this weekend too?
I am running right now, and I'll be running this weekend.
Give me a shout. Give me a request in, and we'll give a shout up to the folks in Noblesville where you're delivering and how you can help.
All right, brother. You have a good night, and I'll talk to you this weekend.
Daryl, awesome. Thank you very much. Daryl DoorDashes it. And he'll call in and ask for a request coming up on Saturday night. Remember this, I've got a JMV Takeover beginning at 6 o'clock in the evening, Saturday night, B105.7. It's an all-80s, all-request Saturday night in-house party. We're all going to be in the house. Well, except for me, I'm going to be live on the radio down the hallway here. And I will be your only live radio presence, especially in music around here. I mean, everything else is going to be satellite-driven or voice track, but not me. I'm going to be here for you and your requests, and a lot of fun on Saturday night to JMV Takeover on B105.7. So fire up your 80s request. We'll give you the phone number down the hall when I get there on Saturday, but if you want to go ahead and predetermine or maybe send in early your request, hashtag JMV Takeover. Hashtag JMV Takeover, and I will find it that way. It'll be really easy for you. Hashtag JMV Takeover. Remember, all the local businesses, the shout-outs, I mean, as long as we're all staying safe and following our guidelines here, don't forget about our local businesses, especially in the food industry that can deliver to you safely. And, if you're still capable of carrying out, because we got a lot of people that are struggling right now, and we still want to help as much as we can. So we'll continue our local business shout-outs as we move along here. Tomorrow's show, DeRocco's back on, I think, from ESPN.com. What in the world are they doing in Jacksonville with a rebuild? Mike DeRocco tomorrow. We get Mike Chappell on the show tomorrow, and that's what we got right now, but I'll figure some more stuff out for you as well. Hey, shout out to Todd Meyer, and he's right. Bob Lovell is going to be on Saturday, a live voice, but not musically live. I am going to be the only live music voice of this market. I blanking guarantee you that. Nobody else is going to be live music-wise but me. Guarantee you. Kyle, great job. Jake Trotter, ESPN.com. And by the way, tomorrow we were talking to Jake about TJ Carey. TJ Carey joins Jeff and Big Joe, the defensive back for the Colts, tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Clayton Anderson, concert tomorrow night at 6 to raise money for the service industry around here, restaurant and bar. Clayton will remind you of that show coming up tomorrow. Thanks to Clayton and Kevin Bowen as well. Xavier Rhodes of the Colts, outstanding. All interviews, podcast 1075thefan.com. Kyle, thank you. Everybody stay safe. Be healthy. Let's reconvene tomorrow right here at 3. Have a great night.
Now, I want you to listen to this. Is breaking. The Indianapolis 500 will be ran